And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the B2B Growth Summit. I'm Max Lubenko, Head of Product Marketing at Reply.io.
I am Olivia Milton, CMO at Reply.io, and today we are all about learning from the best in the business and B2B sales world. We've got top leaders here to share their secrets on how to push your business forward and stand out in the competitive B2B market.
Let's start by getting to know each other. Drop your name, your job title, and where you're joining us from in the chat. Let's see who is in the room.
And don't forget, we want this to be a two-way conversation. Ask your questions and share your thoughts as we go along. And our speakers are eager to hear from you too.
To make things even more exciting, we'll giving away exclusive branded merchandise to the three most active participants in the discussion. Make sure to get involved and let your voice be heard.
Also, a quick reminder, today's sessions are being recorded so that you can revisit the insights anytime.
Now, let's get started. Olivia will lead with a keynote on harnessing AI to unite inbound and outbound for scalable growth. Olivia, over to you, and let us 5 seconds to switch.
Let's kick off with a thought. Imagine you are gearing up for a marathon on a bright sunny day, equipped with just one shoe. Sure, you might manage a few miles, but consider how much faster and more effectively you could run with both shoes on. This scenario is akin to treating inbound and outbound lead generation as separate strategies in business. But today, we will level up and discuss how integrating inbound and outbound with the new wave of AI technology, AI agents, is like giving you both shoes with turbo boosts. In the world of B2B marketing and sales, seeing inbound and outbound as separate paths often leads to inefficiencies. Outbound efforts can feel like a shot in the dark, while inbound might not scale as quickly as you'd hope. The challenge becomes even more daunting when it comes to synchronizing communication between inbound and outbound, personalizing messages at scale, finding the right audience, or choosing the channels. All tasks that can overwhelm go-to-market human teams. At Reply, we believe in merging inbound and outbound channels through the power of AI agents for scalable growth. This integration is not just about using new tools, it's about fundamentally changing how we approach sales and marketing to make them smarter, faster, and more empathetic. AI agents not only understand and predict customer needs, but also create seamless, personalized journey through each potential customer using the available channels. This isn't just a possibility, it's already happening. AI agents like AI SDRs can handle personalization at scale, match audiences with laser precision, choose communication channels, and optimize messages through continuous learning. McKinsey research indicates that AI algorithms can increase leads by as much as 50%. At Reply.io, we are building an ecosystem of products to match this vision. The first one, AI Chat, our newest product that we are launching next week. The first AI-native chatbot with video avatars trained for sales to convert website traffic into leads. The second product, AI agents, and specifically AI SDRs, to launch and orchestrate communications and push sales prospects through the funnel. And finally, Reply's sales engagement platform at the core with its multiple communication channels to scale outbound outreach. Picture this. You are using an AI agent as a core part of your team, set up to convert website traffic visitors into demos via Reply Chat. This agent learns from your knowledge base, assists potential customers, and nurtures them through the funnel, enhancing interactions with new technologies like video avatars. If initial efforts don't convert, it continues to engage prospects, pushing them to the outbound sequences and remembering all previous interactions to ensure seamless communication. Alternatively, starting with outbound tactics, the AI agent selects the target audience and communication strategies and channels. And when the prospect visits the website, it uses AI chat with video avatars to boost conversion chances. The most important part throughout this process, your team focuses on high-value tasks, such as providing demos, negotiating, while the AI handles the scaling and personalization, accelerating growth efficiently. The remarkable aspect of this system is its memory. AI remembers every interaction and every preference, which it then uses to provide engaging and personalized experiences. This level of integration and intelligence isn't just about growth, it's about exponential growth. We believe that integrating inbound and outbound strategies with AI is the inevitable future of B2B marketing and sales. It's about moving faster, smarter, and with greater precision than ever before. It's about not just running the race, but leading it. Thank you for joining me today, and let's get ready to lead the pack together. Now,
Thank you, Olivia, for this insightful speech. We have time, and I offer you to discuss our panel discussion. We have like 10 more minutes. We're waiting for our speakers. And the first thing that's, okay, what we are going to talk about. I think that's fusing sales and marketing workflows to create an inbound engine. That's, it could be a little bit scary, but we'll discuss it today together. And this panel will explore how aligning these teams can dramatically improve your lead generation and conversion processes. Let's check, but before I want to check our chat, because to be honest, the geography of today's summit is really cool. I see Sweden, I see Louisiana, South Africa, hi, Oh, I see people from Ukraine. It's great to see you here.
Well, great to see everyone here.
Sure.
It's like we're super excited every time that we see such a, multinational audience, because we truly believe that it all helps us to be aligned and to be on the edge of knowledge and technology. It is actually the most interesting part of this journey, right?
Yeah. And just like to see the full list, like Colombia, Geneva, Paris, London, Miami, North Carolina, Argentina, even Argentina, Lviv. It's a city
in Ukraine. Yep.
It's in Ukraine. Yes, Canary Island. Okay.
Oh, wow, cool.
Okay. Let me check. Do we have all our speakers? Not yet. Not yet.
Let's probably talk
About agenda.
Oh, we can talk about agenda.
Yeah.
Of course. And probably also can cover some of the cases actually that we faced recently with AI.
Mhm.
Well, and maybe talk about AI chats, because this is the thing that is released next week. Also cool, exciting stuff.
Yeah. I don't know what we want to highlight. I mean, that's the most important thing. That's I would be happy if our if today's summit visitors would check Product Hunt on Tuesday.
Yep.
Tuesday, because we're going to launch this AI chat, and they will have this ability to try it for more than 1 month. Yeah. But so it will be about months. So highly recommend you to check HubSpot, excuse me, Product Hunt on Tuesday, and you will be able to test our new product for free for next month. But talking about agenda, what about main topics? Which topic would you like most?
Well, I'm really a big fan of actually both inbound and outbound, and the combination of these two topics. Well, because as you learned from the keynote speech, this is where we're heading up to at Reply. So basically, you guys know us as outbound platform mostly, where inbound cases were covered, but well, at the same functionality like sequences. However, by adding AI chats, we're gonna build this infrastructure, like ecosystem of the products, to make sure that your leads, not just you get the leads not just from the two channels together, but also the communication context is the same for both of the channels. So this is why I truly believe that the merge of the inbound and outbound, and actually how to do this right, is critically important, and we'll also cover it on the.
I just, we have question, and we still have time to discuss it. Is outbound dead?
Is outbound dead?
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh wow! Like it is changing over time, because what we see is actually the tactics that work previously.
I think the shortest answer, it would dead. In case it is dead, we would bankrupt. But we succeed. We still succeed. So I think it's definitely it's alive.
It is evolving over time, obviously, and those tactics that's been working years ago, like not working today. And again, it will be super interesting to talk what works and what not in the outbound section of today's conference. However, like there are different approaches. Some people tend to proceed with, massive outreach. Some tend to use highly personalized, low volume sequences.
Mhm.
It just depends on the audience and probably the approach.
I'm checking. Of course, I'm checking the stats we have, and I'm checking the LinkedIn feed. And every time I see this question, so Michael, it's addressing to your question. Every time I see it, I see those comments, hundreds of comments sometimes, and in all, it's totally polarized, because sometimes people discuss their success stories, and every time I read those success stories, I'm trying to highlight something, what they have in common, and usually it's about knowledge about target audience, about so primitive and basic things like knowledge about target audience, having a nice unique selling point, preparing multi-channel outreach, so using different channels. So short answer to the Michael's question, I think that's outreach, outbound is alive, but doing it become more complex and require better preparation. That's all.
Well, exactly. And this is why we believe that actually adding AI component to the system, like AI agents, is about to proceed scaling this channel, the outbound channel, but in a truly innovative way. Well, it means like even though we all need to think about personalization and sending those email sequences just to a very specific target audience, there are still ways to use AI intelligence and boost those efforts so much more.
Maybe you have some questions, just type them in the chat. But Olivia, I got a question for you. What's your funniest way to use LLMs, ChatGPT, or any other in a daily usage or
Oh,
anytime?
yeah, I'm a big fan of Perplexity.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy how accurate the answers are, and I always can check the links that it refers to. So basically, I mean, like exploring what's new in the world, exploring the trends or some topic I'm not aware of through Perplexity just saves me a lot of time. So I would say that it's definitely like worth trying, and my favorite probably system. Speaking about the other interesting stuff, like actually, we have a specific goal at Reply to automate 20% of our operations and processes with AI. So it's kind of really interesting stuff. Like, well, in marketing, we have a full list of things that we actually want to, like, first make processes of, and second, automate them with AI. Like, competitor research. Hey, what are the latest stuff that our competitors released this month or last month? And stuff like that. I mean, like it all can be collected with AI and presented in a short form of a report or something like this, and all saving you tons of time. I mean, you don't even need to think about it because it's the process, and AI knows that hey, we are expecting like weekly reports on competitors' recent updates or updates on their advertising campaigns. So I actually want to track that too. Well, that's just a little example, but it saves a lot of time. And, guys, I mean, Max, do you want to add here? Because I think our example can be some kind of an inspiration for those who listen to us now.
My best case, and I definitely love it when our our graphic designer, he was on vacation, and urgently I had to create a cover for blog post, and I have no skills in design, and I just picked up the image from our blog. I fed it to ChatGPT and asked it to describe the image with all details. Then I changed main elements, items from this image, and asked in another ChatGPT, asked it to regenerate using my description. And it created really nice image, which was similar to our blogs covers, and I use it. So it's definitely, it's not about replacing, for example, for us, our design or our design sub department, but it definitely about this some kind of safety net, safety net in daily tasks. And we got questioned by Andrea about what's success rates of AI agents. Andrea, we should be honest that for now we don't have enough data to share any rates, but let us next couple months to collect more data, and then I think this we will be able to provide some cases. So just check our blog, and we now we're collecting this info. So
Well, however, the agents are designed to scale, right? So these are 24/7 non-stop working AI agents that actually help you collect all the relevant information and suggest what can be improved. Well, we also see that those improvements could be done either, well, semi-automatically or even automatically. It means that it just will fuel your pipeline with relevant context and leads, and you will just pick up the results. That's the point.
yeah. I see the question by Maria. Maria will definitely answer it, and but we should keep along our timeline, and we have all our speakers here. So let me introduce them. Here, Laura Adam, sales leader at Dream Data. Michael Maximov, co-founder and managing partner at Belkins. And of course, Elia Milan, CMO at Reply.io. And we would have Elmi Bar, but he his airplane, unfortunately, it was airplane delay. So we hope that he would be able to connect to join us next time. So we're so happy to have you here. Thank you. And note to the people in the chat, please. Oh, yeah. Now, let's kick things off with some of our questions. The first one to all of you: what advice you give your past self about combining sales and marketing? And if it's possible, Michael, could you could you answer it first?
Absolutely, Max. Guys, happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me for this panel, and I would love to share everything that I'm doing right now with my team. So to be honest with you, when I was thinking about this question, the first answer that I got was definitely the qualification part. Like, I might be an old school person here, but to be honest with you, the moment we implemented the qualification on the BDR end, that it changed the whole game for me. Because before the qualification, basically what we did, we've invested a lot of money in marketing. We're looking at what channels worked. We passed leads and opportunities for our sales team, and then the sales team were kind of closing some. The conversions were like okay, and then they were like, Michael, we're swamping in the deals, but they're different deals. So the moment we said, all right, can our BDRs, before passing the opportunity to the sales team, qualify each opportunity, would it change it? And we did it. So the way we did it, we use HubSpot as our CRM. We added this HubSpot service plan where you have different playbooks, and we automated the playbook where there is a list of 10 questions that BDRs are filling out for each opportunity. And it gives us from -10 to +10 scoring per deal. And the questions are around the location of the client, their size, the POC we're talking to, et cetera, et cetera. But there were few that are, I think, unique for us. BDRs also matched. They matched each criteria with the chance to successfully deliver to the client. So, like, if this is a company or an industry that we can successfully deliver to, then it's plus score. If not, then it's minus score. So it totaled down to so we passed over to the sales team all the opportunities that has 3+. And in this way, the conversions grew, kind of doubled in the quality and just the volume, and both teams had been happy. And it helped us to align the sales and marketing, because then we realized that essentially the sales team, the marketing team, then works only to generate the opportunities that will have a high potential of closing for the sales team. I'm sorry, I took a minute here to tell you this, but that was the game changer for us. So.
Okay, we got it. Thank you, Laura. What about your advice to past self?
Yeah, for me, it's much more high level than for Michael. So the advice for past self, when I was working at the larger enterprises, just in sales, I really didn't care about marketing much. It's like it's just sales that closes everything. It's like it's just us. Everything else that marketing is doing is like, okay, nice banner. We need to go to the event. Oh, can you do this roll up and this kind of stuff? That was marketing for me. And that's really bad. Don't do this. So past self, care about this. How can they help you out? Because Michael, what you're speaking about right now is exactly that collaboration as well. We figure out what's actually working together. We in sales tell marketing what kind of leads are good. Let's care about the data. And that will create so much smoother process, not just for you internally because you're wasting time. I don't care that you're wasting time, but for your buyers, so much more impactful because you would know what a good lead is, what not too good lead is, and maybe you don't even need to waste time on the smaller leads.
Yeah.
And the same goes for the prospects. They don't want to speak to you if they're not a good lead and
Yeah.
they're not going to have impact from your
Yeah.
product. So care about marketing. That's what my learning is.
I love it. I love it. Really, Laura. Thank you so much because, I just see so much, memes about sales and marketing. And when it comes to sales, they always neglect all the marketing impact. But well, anyway, it's just answering this question. I'm completely agree with you guys because if I could give advice to my past self about marketing and sales, I would say hey, negotiate with sales team on, well, who are the leads? Who do you need, guys? What is the size of the company? What are their needs? What are the critical details that are needed for
Yeah.
qualification? And the sooner it becomes obvious for both marketing and sales, the easier the process will be and the easier the
Yeah.
job will be to do.
Yeah, just to echo what you guys said, we're doing exactly the same, and we packaged that into three tiers, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and we put the exact criteria who the tier 3 companies are, tier 2, tier 1 companies, and then the sales and marketing and the client delivery team are all aligned with regards to this is the perfect client for us. So then when we're passing over from the marketing and the tier 1 clients to the sales team, they better be closing them, right? Because we know that this is the best successful client for everyone, and everyone put their hands on that and say, yes, that's true, we all agree with that, we all are happy, and this just remove the discrepancy at all. So yeah.
Yeah. So we deal with this one, this question. Thank you. But let's talk about mistakes. What's the biggest mistake you have seen in aligning sales and marketing? And let me push the microphone to Laura. Could you highlight your
A
experience?
very tangible mistake, and don't do this, okay? So, Dream Data, we started to be active on LinkedIn 3-4 years ago, and we figured out that it's working. Sales, creating content, some of them creating personal brands, some of them creating just regular posts, what marketing posted, but just being active on LinkedIn. Really nice. And then one day, my CMO comes over to me and says, Laura, so you've got 10,000 followers and we're low on leads. How can we convert them? I was like, okay, can we not convert them? So let's do some things. Let's do something creative. Let's get them to convert. I said, okay, Stefan, I'll do it, but I promise you the results are going to be shit, but I'll do it. So, okay, so I created a video. I was like, yada, yada, we did this. And if you convert, I don't remember. It's I either promised gifts or something fun. So a video got exposed to, I think 20,000 people. And I got 0 meetings, none, nada. And then it did not affect my brand too much. It was a little cheesy and so on. It's okay. But then what I did the next day, I think, or 2 days after, is that I fucked up. So I did this, and I would like to do it better. So please, everybody in marketing, help me out and tell me what I should have done differently.
Right.
You know what? Out of that, I converted so many meetings because I was selling to marketers, and what they like to do, they like to help. So don't try to convert people who are just following you for the content or are interesting. You're building demand, but that demand capture, please leave it till they come in or when they're actually ready. You cannot force that in. So this is my mistake. Don't do it.
It's so just before this event, I record the video, like some kind of video invitation, and it was so
Polished. Yeah.
it was polished. Yeah, I made like 30 tries to record it, and I published it like, I'm ready to get my impressions. And I have like 300, 400, and then I just make screenshot of my on my phone with all those drafts of this video and publish it like, guys, look at this. I spent so much time and I fucked up, and it was like 5 times more successful than previous posts with video. it's so about the human. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
People want to know you're humans. Like, let's not try to play over polished content and like, we're not perfect. Nobody is. Then let's not play that.
Let's face it,
let's
right?
let's highlight this idea. I love it. Michael?
So not all mistakes have happy ending, by the way. I just wanted to clarify that, right? That I don't have the happy ending like Laura had, all right? So I think the mistake that I made back in the day, I went and I talked to my head of marketing and said, listen, your job is to generate leads. That's it. Like, you generate leads, as many leads that you can. Just do it. This is your budget. Let's do that. If you're going to successfully generate those leads, here's your bonus. You're going to be successful. This is like, promotions. And then he said, let's do that. I went to then the sales team and said, listen, you're closing the deals. If you're closing, you're getting successful. Obviously, you know what's happened. Marketing generated hundreds of deals, and then sales didn't close anything. So we spend all the budget. Marketing team is like, the fuck? Like, we are successful. Like, we've done our KPI, we've done our work. Like, that's it, right? And the sales team is like, Michael, they generated shitty leads, or like they generate the leads, but we didn't close them. We didn't know what's happening. We didn't figure it out, and we burned out the cash. So the moral of the story is the following: both the marketing and the sales team should be compensated and motivated by the bottom of your funnel, not the top of your funnel. And they should be both committed to it and paid for that. So I changed that. And now my marketing team is also being motivated by not just how many leads they generate. Obviously, the X number of leads is important for the conversion, but also the successful sales. So now my BDRs or my marketing team, they get some X percentage or some small commission or just some perk from the closed deals and closed clients, and not just, the pipeline that they kind of generated. And that kind of, I learned from that mistake by spending a lot and not getting anything. So
Did we write down this idea?
Well, yeah, obviously. From my side, I want to add that probably our mistake was the feedback loop. Oh, and it actually resonates with what you are talking about, because, well, previously we didn't have it good enough, like timely feedback on, hey, marketing, last week you generated some batch of leads, but no one of them convert. So, and like, when you have this short time frame to dive into the details and see, hey, we have this good performing campaign, but sales team reports that those leads do not convert. So, we can, make the some decisions and probably switch it off, change it, and something like this. So I would say that this was and this is actually a critical mistake. But you know what? I want to use my right as the co-host of this conference and actually ask you guys another question, because Laura, I really like your point on, like, don't try to generate leads, right? Don't try to sell. But actually, business rely on predictability. And how do you, balance this, creative approach and getting attention from the audience with actually number of leads or number of sales pipeline that you need to generate.
Yeah. So you create predictability through, you can start with so-called vanity metrics, but you can start by mapping them out. So what we do at Dream Data is we create a lot of content on LinkedIn. We also pay for LinkedIn ads as well, but we don't convert people. Throughout the customer journey, we're able to see that people are consuming that content that is account-based. So we already can see the signals that are not conversions just yet. So seeing that companies are consuming our content, suddenly you can see that they come through G2 and start comparing us with somebody else.
Right.
They're in the buying moment. That's where we can start doing a little bit more pushy sales, reach out through sales, or do a little bit of a different marketing approach. So it starts with mapping the intent, and then mapping that intent into a pipeline that creates predictability. So intent goes into marketing qualified lead, sales qualified lead, new business, and you can look back and start seeing what type of signals are the good signals that we're going after. By creating that creative content, it doesn't mean that you just go out and just, I don't know, stand on a barrel and shout out to people. You target that. You target the messaging, what type of messages you're doing. What type of people you're connecting with, what kind of audiences you're building as a marketer. And out of those things, you start mapping out which of those initiatives started to bring in intent for you, website visits, intent from LinkedIn, your G2, and then you will start those converting. So predictability is built through intent as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, Michael, do you
Great
want to
point.
add here?
No, I think Laura nailed it. It's super great point. Something just to add, I would probably start off by falling back on the channels that are more predictable and works better. So typically, even in a startup, there's always your strong suit, something that you know how to do that. For some founders can be a thought leadership, right? You already have an audience, so you can fall back on that. Some, like myself, know how to send cold emails, but I've seen, and there's some speakers that will be in this event, they are one of the best content creators that are out there on LinkedIn, and every post they create, it goes viral, right? They know how to work with the audience, so they can use that. So I would just say that use the channels that you know how to use, but always experiment, but just don't fall into the trap of all experiments and that's it, right? Because like if you do too many experiments, then it's just doesn't make sense. That's why they are called A/B testing, because you have two options, or ABC testing, right? So do what you know to do the best, use that, create the predictability, and then always be curious to test something new, but not too many tests at the same time. So yeah.
Thank you. Would you like to add something?
Well, no, thank you. Okay,
Is it because Laura nailed it?
Yes, exactly. So I mean, like, it's just nothing to add here.
That was great.
Thank you. It's hard. It's a complex question. What's changed in your approach to sales or marketing significantly increase your inbound leads? Michael, maybe you may start.
Oh yeah. Demand conversion is my favorite topic because I'm playing with it all the day. So it's not a news for anyone right now, but when we put book a call button on the website, it changed the game. So like about 40% of our prospects start booking calls directly with the sales team instead of filling out the form. It worked for us really well. Then the next step would be adding qualification questions so that the leads can be routed to the BDR team or to the sales team directly. So if you go to my website and you click on so that you're with the startup, then you will go to the BDR team to qualify whether you have a budget, right? If you are from the enterprise company, you will go straight to the sales exec who is handling the enterprise clients per se, right? So it helped to reduce the time and the friction between the attempts to get directly to the right person to talk to. So there's no extra handoff that doesn't need to be there, right? And then what we start looking at is when a prospect can book a conversation with us. Is it in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Because we were booked so much. So as we shorten the time that the prospects can book a time with us, it helps us to actually increase the conversion. Because as you probably know, if your prospect is not talking to you today, then they're talking to someone else. Then by Friday, they're already going to have a proposal with someone else. Then we should move quickly, right? So although you might have a volume, but moving quickly and being very thoughtful about that to not to create additional friction for the handoff was obviously the game changer for us.
Thank you, Michael. I have additional question, but I'll ask you later after the Laura answer.
Yep. And it's very, very similar. Look into the data. So I love, Michael, that you did that part of splitting it out, who's handling what. And even our CTO is saying, if I want to buy a product and I'm not able to book a demo for today or tomorrow, I'm gone. And it's really, really key that, oh yes, you guys are busy and probably don't have available people. Make sure you do, because they're speaking with somebody else. But for us, so what changed a lot was looking into the data, how fast some of the channels are converting. So if we know that events are converting within a year, or webinars are converting longer than a year. So all of you who filled out forms for this one, you're probably going to become Replies client in like a year or two. You just don't know it yet. But that's how it takes a long time. Then you know how much time and effort you have to give your sales team to convert the leads that come from a webinar. And a totally different approach if they come from Google. If they come from Google, they just Google you, they're looking for it. Or G2, it will take a month or two, then they are closed. Make sure that you focus on short term and long term. And that is going to change a lot from how you're handling your leads and prioritizing your time.
Well, it's so insightful. Well, can you guys share what systems or tools are you using to prioritize leads?
Or you want to go first?
We score our leads. So the way we score them, first of all, ICP, not ICP. And those are like Gmails, cannot even book meetings.
Right.
A little different with LinkedIn forms, because you always come in with your personal, usually with your personal account. But then those are scored according to the account you're coming from, because that you still know if it's ICP or not. But tools or systems. So we use Dream Data to score them as well, because of their activity on the website, if they've been on G2, LinkedIn, and so on. But we also use Apollo to help us to score on the ICP fit as well. And the two combined, activity and ICP fit, that helps in scoring as well to figure out who's going to do what. And then there are 3 levels of accounts. It's like small, I think it's up to 250 employees, then 250 to 1,000, and 1,000 and up. So that also helps out to know who's going to book what in Calendly. And that's what we have set up for people to be booked for enterprises or for middle or for the small ones as well.
Thanks. And the question I wanted to ask Michael, it was about what about this fear to drop your conversion rate when you're adding some qualification questions? How did you manage it?
Yeah, so we did the A/B test, and the result was surprising that the more complicated form would have a better conversion across the board, because if a client actually wants to spend time and filling out a bigger form, they would likely to be converted into the opportunity with a higher chance. So they're not just a kind of vanity shopping around, but that's it, right? So that kind of showed us the data that we have.
What are your buyers? What type of buyers do you sell to?
So typically, mid-size, from small to mid-size companies, from 50 to 500 people, different industries, service, tech companies, like across the board.
Is it usually technical buyers or more?
No. Marketing, salespeople. Yeah.
You usually hear differently. Interesting. I like it.
But then we didn't overcomplicate it. We added only the few drop down menus, just 2, 3 basically, right? That tells us, where are you from? Tells us what size of your company, and then tells us what's your budget. I'm sorry about the budget thing, but I mean, honestly, right? You don't want to spend time. You don't want to spend time in 5 days, get to someone on the call, and then they will deal the speech make your introduction, Michael. Then I'm doing my introduction. Then we talk all the need qualification. And then what's your budget? It's $500. Oh, sorry, we're not a fit. We're like 100 times more. And you're like, shit, right? So we just go straight to, are you married or are you single? Kind of type of question, Yeah.
I love it.
I am embarrassed. I'm sorry.
We get a simple tech question about, do you use Calendly for meeting booking at the website?
So we don't, not on the website. We have a 2-step booking. So we've got a regular form on the website, and then they get an email to book it through Calendly. But I have very good friends at Chili Piper who help with just that direct thing.
Yeah.
So there are pros and cons for both, but I think it would be a good idea as well to check them out.
We do Chili. We did HubSpot, but then when the volume grew and we did the routing and then the handoff and stuff, we started working with Chili and implemented that part, and it worked really well for us. Yeah.
Sorry for off top, but you mentioned Chili Piper, and I recall their cold outreach, and it was message on LinkedIn where a girl asked me about receipt of grandma soup. Do I want to receive?
They did that too with me. They reached out to me with the same, like, hey, do you want to know my favorite recipe or something?
Yeah, and I was like, sure, I want to receive this recipe, and she shared. And I like, okay, thank you. And then in a week or something, she wrote to me like, knock, knock. I'm like, who's there? And we continued chatting about. And it was, it's not just off top. It's an example where it's not highly personalized outreach. It's so human centric, and I just want to share it with you because it's aligned with all things you mentioned some way. Yeah,
you should have Joey Williams, who is their head of SDR for Chili Piper, on the next event. He's hilarious and he can tell you more about their approaches. Yeah, so they're
definitely really cool we wrote down this. One more question. We have like 13 minutes more, and I'm happy to ask you a couple more questions. I like this one about technologies. How can technology help unite sales and marketing? Any tools you recommend? So it's just about the list. Maybe you might share the list and explain each point of the list.
So I've been a customer of Reply.io for 8 years, since the entire. So actually, you guys were the first tool that we bought, probably. Just so we've been for the entire journey of us, we've been with you, and now knowing that you guys can be expanding your suite and adding the inbound features. So would love to explore that, but we mostly use you guys for outbound and for some LinkedIn related things. I am a huge fan of HubSpot. I've done a lot of really cool things in terms of the nurturing, positive, negative attribution, some conversions on, some audience building with HubSpot. We use a lot Chili Piper, a lot. We use a lot of different integrations with like AI. So like things like if my sales team have a conversation with a prospect, then the recording, the script and the summary of the recording will go to HubSpot, and there's some deals actions going to be created automatically, so it's all automatic and stuff. And there's a lot of integration to qualify. So when I mentioned this qualification that our BDRs are doing, some of that is done automatically. So we are like Laura are pulling data from multiple sources, so they don't spend time researching manually, but then they can actually save time on that. AI can do that, or someone else can do that. But apart from that, just really that we're getting it from between the sales and the marketing is something that's worth mentioning really here is, and this is maybe unique for me because I'm in a professional service line of work, but our client team, our client delivery team are the kings in the company. So they are dictating the rules. So essentially we don't have any problem about the sales and marketing alignment because they both are listening to the client delivery team. So in a way, like what client delivery tells them, these two teams are kind of doing. So what we did, we've created this kind of dashboard when we pulled all the clients all their results and their industry and some other things, and then both in the marketing and the sales team are aligned by looking at that, and then we're using Plan Hat for that kind of alignment. And it just was the game changer, because now when a sales team prepares for the call, sales rep prepares for the call, or they're thinking about the strategy, they don't, essentially what they do, they go and they filter out, here are the best successful clients, industries, types of engagements that we have right now that are real time, and we will build our strategy on top of that. And then since both teams have the same access to the same tool, it's a no-brainer that they make the same kind of strategy in a way, right? So that's kind of where we are. So
Thank you. Just wrote down a couple things. Laura.
Yeah, and so somebody asked before we joined, is outbound dead? And I almost agree. It's kind of that cold outbound is over. We all open up our emails, and then 20 emails later, after click, 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 click. I mean, you know which emails are outbound and shit, and you would never open them up. So I'll walk you through how we align marketing and sales in order to do signal-based outreach as well. So marketing is initially creating demand, right? So do campaigns and so on. And all of those channels, we do track them in Dream Data. We've got all the signals in LinkedIn and Google and so on, and know which ones convert the best, how much do they cost and so on. But then the next thing that happens, as soon as we have a conversion, then sales teams are also able to see the customer journeys of the clients. So if you're getting a conversion in, then you're able to see what has happened. What type of campaign did they come through? Oh, did we meet them at the event 2 years ago? Then we can also think about that they probably know us and so on. So that comes a little smoother and closer to marketing, so you don't have to ask, where have you heard about us from? You can do that because it will tell you that, oh, maybe they saw Michael on this webinar, and you wouldn't know because this is Reply.io's webinar. But
how do you pull this data?
Book a meeting, I'll show you. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. I love that. Yeah, it's cool.
Michael, I was on this meeting, and it's worth to. It's definitely, you should visit it. Yeah.
No, but it's something that we do. This is the service that we sell, but this is how important it is for sales as well. And it doesn't have to be through Dream Data. You just have to get to stitch that together. So what sales get as well, besides that customer journey, is also the signals from the clients. So what marketing is doing before a conversion, sales wouldn't see that they're there. But if you've got, let's say, 100 accounts that you're targeting, every single morning from Dream Data through an ETL tool, we push an email and a Slack to each salesperson saying, this is a list of your active accounts. Some of them, the ones that you have your name on, some of them you might be in conversations with, some of them are in product, some of them you have never spoken with because they're only on G2, but you're acting quickly because you know that speed is the king. If you're the person to speak with them, then you'll be able to be first one for them to shape the idea about what you're selling. So this is all, that journey goes through signal-based selling, not just that type of cold outreach that nobody wants. And of course, we still have a list of accounts. We try to do all the creative outreach as well, but you really have to find a recipe for that grandma soup to be able to be good at outbound still.
I can comment here because we at Reply believe that cold outreach should be as relevant as advertising. When you search for something, well, you see the ads, right? Whether it's Google or social media, it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, if you have the intent, you will get the relevant ads. And it should be the same with cold outreach. So this is the point. I mean, like, if you look at cold outreach from this perspective, it makes a bit more sense. I mean, like, as a marketer, I want actually to get proposals about, the topic I'm interested in. Like, hey, I need contractor for content. Hey, actually, I want a expert content to be ranked in top 10 Google. Or, well, you name it, it can be anything. But if I'm interested, I want to get the message.
Yeah, exactly. I want to mention something else in regards to that as well. I spoke with Leah Turin, I don't know, you probably know her from LinkedIn as well. One of the things she's speaking about is the micro conversions of your prospects, but micro conversions don't have to be a book meeting. Micro conversions open interest from your outreach. If you're looking, for example, if you, I don't know, get SaaStr's newsletter. SaaStr never speaks about, oh, buy my ticket, come to my conference. Oh, we're running the conference. No, they're speaking about startups all the time. The message, and I look at least at the top of the message every time. They say, oh, you're a CEO. Are you trying to think of stepping down or something like that? For startups, do the messages that interest Olivia, and then she will do the micro conversion, start reading it, micro conversion starts consuming your LinkedIn, micro conversion, and then sales will be able to do a quality outreach that is exactly on the top of mind of Olivia.
Just wanted to add an opposite piece of mind as well. So I receive hundreds of emails every day, and I receive 99% poorly written emails. So, I mean, there was a lot of cold outreach, 100%. But because the cold outreach became so accessible very often, we can now get access to leads. I remember 7 years ago, for me to buy a good list of 1,000 prospects that match ICP was impossible, right? Like I should have been talking to ZoomInfo for like 2 months for to get any proposal from them, right? And
So
now
true.
it's like it's just so low hanging fruit, right? So the point I'm making is people start being lazy with regards to their writing, so they didn't put a lot of thoughtfulness into that. They're not creative. They do a lot of AI chat GPT writing, and they think that, oh, well, this channel doesn't work. Of course, because it's not a but I've met, and I just don't want to advertise them right now, but I've met this guy and this company, and they're amazing in writing, and I fell in love with them, and they reached out to me with a cold email, and I opened this email and I was like, shit, this is a good cold email. And I replied like, is this a good cold email? And so like, yeah, okay, let's talk. So the point was that when you have this momentum of like, oh, this is a very nicely done creative, like you said, Max, with Chili Piper outreach, right? Like this is a nicely done. It might be generic for some, it might be funny, but it's a nicely done. So the point is that if you're looking for a scalable, cheap channel that you can easily integrate, and you think that you're going to be successful tomorrow, try ads. Whatever you're doing, you won't be successful with anything. Like try LinkedIn content. Impossible to be successful with it within even several years. Try ads. Impossible. Try whatever you're doing. You won't be successful if you're not doing that consistently over a long period of time. But if you're sending out cold emails 6 years in a row and you're doing that thoughtfully, then you would be very good at that, and they will provide you results. This is just kind of my 2 cents here. So
I don't know what to add. It's so cool, all the list, and I hope that's all people who watching us right now, they will use it, and we will receive more
creative emails.
thoughtful
I mean, like content
outreach.
is definitely the key, right? And by saying content, we don't actually refer to blog articles only. Emails are also content. Advertising is also content, because
I think that's even title in your LinkedIn, and it's a content, because I seen a guy. I seen a guy, and he wrote like a junior shitposter manager, and it was unusual. And I remember this morning.
Yeah. This morning, a guy added to my LinkedIn the best Mama's project manager title, or something like that. And I was
amazing.
Like, okay, I'm gonna just add you. I don't know who you are. I'm just gonna add you for that title. So.
Exactly.
Nice.
I mean, like, yeah, that's a really cool advice. Just stay creative, and the result will come.
And stick to it, right?
Yep.
I think you guys also saw with your customer, like if you have someone coming in for like several months to test something and they just move on, they would never have anything set up successfully. But if you stick to it for some time, months or years, and you try and you optimize and you figure out different things, and you will definitely make it work.
It's great final thought for this panel discussion. I just want to say thank you for your Michael. Thank you for your Laura, and I hope that we'll prepare this list and maybe share as an email or as a post. So thank you so much, and thank you for this. What a start for this conference! It was great. Thank you so much, and hope to see you again on our events.
Thanks for
Have a
having
nice
us.
day.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. And we had some great discussion so far. So let's continue. In the vein, Maxim Paulson, head of growth at Contrast, will now lead us into product-led sales, your next step in growth. We're eager to hear what Maxim has to share. So over to you.
Hey Max, hey Olivia. Can you hear me well? Can you just
Yeah,
get a little
great.
confirmation before we get started? Perfect. Really appreciate the invitation. Are you guys staying on with me? We're gonna have a chat, or are you gonna be leaving?
Nice
Yes,
question.
we're gonna be leaving. And the stage
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
yours.
We will just let's hide us.
That's fine. Okay. Hey everyone. Let me share my screen. Can everybody see my screen? Can I get a little confirmation maybe in chat? I also have chat open, so if you want to ask me any questions as we go, I'd be very happy to answer. So, mandatory presentations. My name is Maxim. I'm head of growth at Contrast. I take care of everything that has to do with growth in GTM. So we're modern webinar platform. I won't bore you with a pitch. If you use HubSpot and run webinars, check us out. I think we're building something pretty cool. I'm also a content creator. If you don't follow me on LinkedIn, I highly recommend. A lot of go-to-market focused content. So as much for marketing and sales, but also some data and automation tips. I also make the funniest memes you'll find on LinkedIn, and I was voted most humble creator by myself. So yeah, I'd love to see you over on LinkedIn. Every Friday we have meme battles. It's a lot of fun. You should join me. And finally, I do a bit of GTM advising, seed and Series A companies, growth tooling and architecture, automation and data. Let's not spend too much time here. We're here to talk about product-led growth and product-led sales. So quickly before we get started, I love that this conversation comes after the one that they had with Lauren just previously, because aligning marketing and sales is not only mandatory to product-led growth, but I think it's one of the stepping stones to actually getting product-led growth right and enabling product-led sales. The same way that we need to align marketing and sales to enable product-led growth, we need to enable marketing, sales, product, and also customer success. So I want to start off by answering maybe two questions that you might have. You might be wondering, should I stay for this session? And I think the two biggest maybe pushbacks I would get on this talk is product-led growth is just a trend, a fad. It's gonna at some point it's gonna disappear. So I want to first talk about why product-led growth is happening, why it's important, and why it's here to stay. And second of all, I think a lot of salespeople are scared of product-led growth. If the product is selling for me, then what am I going to do? I'm going to get replaced. And that's not at all the case. So I want to explain what the impact of product-led growth is on sales and give some tips and tricks on where you can improve to be the top salesman or saleswoman in your product-led org. So let's start off by talking why product-led growth. If we look at the history of selling products, the first thing that comes to mind is the on-premise era. So this is a visual from OpenView. I'd highly recommend checking out their blog if you have time. In the 80s, in the 90s, how did we sell software? So we would send the sales team to the offices, maybe think SAP is one of the very famous names we could think about on the on-premise era. You sell to the C-levels, decision makers. They install the systems on all of the computers. This is before the cloud. And then all of the users were made to use that license that was bought. Then we had our first revolution. Our first revolution is the cloud era. So suddenly we're no longer selling at a group level to everyone, but we're selling to executives and managers, and the product is available on a browser, or it's no longer something that's being downloaded, and we're selling seats. We're not selling licenses company-wide. So here we can think about Salesforce, and the way you buy SAP and the way you buy Salesforce is very different. Then another revolution we had, so the cloud era starts in the 2000s. In the 2010s, we have the age of PLG and connected work. So we start seeing tools like HubSpot or like Attio, and these are very different because it's not like Salesforce where you sell to the manager and it's distributed to the team. Think about the last time you bought a CRM or bought a tool. How did it happen? You went to the website, you signed up for a free account, you clicked around a bit, it looked cool, maybe someone reached out, and then you ended up buying. So we have tools like HubSpot where you can go to the HubSpot website and create a free account, start playing around with the platform, and you can also book a demo. But the pinnacle maybe of PLG is going to be tools like Attio, where you can't even book a demo on the website. And this leads to a whole category of tools that we're all very familiar with today. The Slacks, the Canvas, the Dropboxes, the Figma. Outbound is much less the way that they acquire users, but it's rather, we have free users coming into the platform. And once they've used the product a bit, we get them to buy. So this is a trend that we've been seeing for the past 20 years to what I would call the B2C-ization of B2B. The power is being shifted from the buyer to the end user. We used to take our software and sell it to the buyers, and now we're taking our software and sending it to end users. And end users are going to go see their buyer and say, oh, look at this really cool piece of software that I found. What if we bought a team license? So this is a very important shift that we're seeing. Why do I say it's the B2C-ization of B2B? Well, because that's how it works in your personal lives. You sign up to the free trial of Netflix, and you watch a few shows. The algorithm gets better. You're interested, and so you pay for your account. And this is exactly what we're seeing more and more of in B2B. So to sum it up, a low barrier to entry, a lot of low-code, no-code tools are making it easier to create products. More products means more competition, means also better products, and products that are built no longer for buyability, but built for the end user, for usability. So this is a trend that we're seeing across many, many, many different industries. And we're moving away from very high-level selling to decision makers and rather convincing the user and selling bottom up. And this trend is only going to intensify as time goes by. So what is PLG? PLG is a growth model where product usage drives customer acquisition, retention, and expansion. And this is why, this is the main reason why PLG impacts sales teams. Because currently, well, it's the sales teams that are doing a lot of the acquisition, or that are negotiating the retention, or negotiating expansion deals. And if your org, if your company is making a transition to PLG and you still try to have the same responsibilities as you did before, you're going to be left behind. And this is why we need to sort of reevaluate the position of sales teams in product-led companies. To sum up PLG in one sentence, there's this three-word sentence by Leah, which is show, don't tell. So whereas in the SAP or the Salesforce era of selling, it It was much more salespeople trying to convince people to buy. Telling the buyers, look how good our product is, you're going to be able to do this and to do that. But if we think about PLG companies, these companies aren't telling you what they do, they're showing you what they do. Netflix isn't telling you that they have a database of videos, they're showing you that they have all the shows you want and a good recommendation algorithm. So this is really, in essence, what PLG is. There are three important concepts you need to understand. The first one is the aha moment, which is the moment at which someone understands the value of the product. Second one is activation, which is when the user has done a certain amount of steps to show that they have an understanding of the product and they're ready to use. And the third one, time to value, is how long it takes to activate. And if we think about the traditional sales cycle, someone visits the website, downloads an ebook, books a demo, closed one, onboarding, where marketing is taking care of the ebook and we have our MQLs, they book a demo, they get qualified, SQLs, and then sales takes over negotiation. And then down here, we have CS with onboarding. And the value that the user gets is so far away from when they first visit the website. Versus if we think about how a lot of modern PLG companies work, well, you visit the website, you try an interactive demo, and straight away, oh, this product looks really cool. Look what I can do. Maybe you were looking for a way to compress a PDF, and you got a product where, without having to sign up, you could instantly compress your PDF. So straight away, you have that aha moment. Then maybe the tool has a free sign up. So you go and you sign up, no credit card, no one bothering you. You can just go into the product, and through some in-app or in-product onboarding, you can see the value of the product. And this can happen in a couple of minutes. In 5 to 10 minutes, you can go through a demo, a sign up, and some onboarding. And this takes the aha moments and the time to value and activation down from what is potentially weeks or months or years to minutes. But for this to work, we need marketing, sales, and product all to be aligned. I'll even put customer success here. Let me make a little change, plus customer success. So you might be thinking, okay, if everyone's doing everything, what does this have to do with sales? And here I put 4 big question marks. Not everyone who activates is going to pay. Not everyone who understands your product is ready to buy. So sales still has a very, very important role here, transforming people who understand your product to people who are interested in buying your product. So we have a very important concept in PLG, which is the product qualified lead or the product qualified account. So maybe you have a free trial or a freemium account that you can create from your website. But you might be having hundreds or thousands of people signing up every week or every day. How do you prioritize? Who do you sell to first? And this is where comes in the concept of a product qualified lead or product qualified account. A product qualified lead is someone who is one in your ICP. So obviously, we're going to be prioritizing people that are in our ICP. 2, that have shown intent. Maybe they've seen the pricing page. Maybe they've talked to you on intercom. Maybe they've used the AI agent that Reply is releasing. Maybe they've seen some very bottom of funnel blog pages, and you're tracking all of that with Dream data. But something a little bit new here that we wouldn't see in MQLs, marketing qualified leads, or SQLs, sales qualified leads, is value. And this is done through the product. So how many users have they invited? What features have they used? Did they run into gated features? Did they try to use a feature and it wasn't available on their plan? And all of this information we can use to create a score to say, oh, this person understands the product and is potentially ready to buy. So from this score, we can create different tiers. depending on how well they fit the customer, the ICP, and how well they fit product usage. And here is where something really interesting comes in, is this tier 2. If product usage is low, if you have maybe one of your target accounts that came in, that signed up, maybe worked a little bit in your product, clicked around, used some of the features, but then they left and they never came back. This is where even PLG motions need salespeople, because what the salesperson is going to do is they're going to look at everything that the account did in the product and say, oh, I saw that you created a campaign but didn't add any contacts, or that you created a campaign and you didn't use any of our AI features. And this is really where the sales team is going to be able to drive a lot more value than simply having to explain everything from A to Z. So PQLs is a very important notion to understand in the world of PLG. And here's also another impact that it has on sales teams, is who defines the PQL? How do you get to this score? How do you need to be able to calculate if a person is a product qualified lead. And all the knowledge that the sales team has on these are the features people are interested in, or this is what people do before buying, or this is what people like to use and is a good signal for them to be ready to buy. All of this goes into calculating a product qualified lead or product qualified account. Product qualified account is going to be a bunch of users that you score on an account level, not on an individual level. So that in essence is PLG and the role of sales in a PLG model. Now, let's talk about specifically product-led sales. So what do you need to make PLS, product-led sales, work? First of all, you need access to product data. So Laura mentioned this earlier. They have their product, they have an ETL that gets their data in their warehouse, and then they reverse ETL or send that data back out into their operational tools to be able to tell their sales team, oh, this person did this person did that. They might be ready to buy. For smaller companies, you might not have a data warehouse, you might not have an ETL. A tool like June or with some automation tools like Zapier or Anyden is perfect for setting this up. So first condition is access to product data. The second condition is you need a framework to contact users. As in, you need to know who you're telling, what, and when. So I'll give you some examples in just a second. What does this mean for sales team? This means that sales teams will now leverage product data to find ready-to-close deals. They're going to look for people that were active in the product, that are in the ICP, and that maybe just need that little extra push to close. And they also now need to work with the marketing team, with the customer success team, with the product team to create and refine the framework, pushing people to buy. So this is going to be sales involved in writing onboarding messages or building the onboarding sequence, or sales creating content with the marketing team. This goes back to what the previous panel was talking about, being aligned sales and marketing. And all of this shouldn't be scary. It should actually be an incredibly interesting opportunity, because you no longer need to explain the basic features of your product. The product does it itself. You can rely on the product to be more efficient. If you go through a demo, you need to show them everything. You can say, oh, go and create an account and call me if you have any questions. So we're really increasing the efficiency of sales. And this is a really important one. Sales is becoming much more of a consultant role. It's where can they bring value as individuals rather than just being another person who runs demos, answering the same questions again and again. The product answers the recurring questions. You become an expert that prospects can rely on, well, to ask questions. And the final part is, well, sales only intervenes to close bigger deals. So an example would be if you have 5 or 10 users from the same company that are all using your products, you can say, oh, I'm going to contact the manager and negotiate an enterprise deal. Or maybe they have 100 users, so you can sell them 100 seats. And that the product won't be able to do. But you, as a salesperson, will be able to go in, negotiate, understand how all those users are organized, and send that high-value email to the decision maker. The last thing I want to talk about, and we are short for time, how to be a top seller if your company does product-led sales. 1, learn to make the most out of your tools. Become a master at using your dashboard, your CRM, and figure out how to look for signals that show that someone's ready to buy. 2, change your approach. Using product data is the most valuable information that you're going to have on how much someone knows about your product. Learn to find gaps between product usage and what a company needs, and use that as a trigger to email the company, for example. And the last one is build better internal relationships, that is within your company. Make friends with product managers, content teams, operation teams. They're going to be the ones feeding you with the product qualified leads. They're going to be the ones feeding you with all of this data that you can leverage. And yeah, they're going to be your biggest allies in product-led everything. So I know we're straight on time. If we have any questions in chat, I'd love to answer them. I hope all of this made sense. And yeah. Did we lose Max and Olivia?
Hi, sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, probably there is some video problems with guys. So, Maxime, thank you so much for your presentation. It's lovely to have you here. Yes, now we are moving on to Casey Hill. Casey, passing mic to you.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name's Casey. I run organic for Active Campaign. We're a $3 billion company in the marketing automation space. And I've been doing email marketing, everything kind of an email domain for 13 plus years. So super excited to kind of take people through. Hopefully this is a very kind of tactical walkthrough. I'm going to try to provide a lot of reference material, a lot of specifics. So folks have a roadmap on how to use email newsletters and email marketing as an effective channel to drive revenue. So I'm going to present here and we'll be off to the races. All right. Are folks able to see my screen? It doesn't look like it's sharing.
No, you're not sharing. So there is a button present. Try this one.
Yep, clicking that. I don't know why that's not functioning.
If you send me the link in the chat, I'll make sure to put it on stage.
Yeah, it's a slide deck. It's a slide deck from a post. So I'm not sure the easiest way for us to do this, but if you want to pull it up and share screen and maybe you can toggle through, we can tag team this and make it work.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So this is it, guys. We're going to kind of walk through. I think the first thing that's really important with a newsletter is to start at the goal layer. So before we even get into best practices, before we get into kind of benchmarking, which are the kind of second and third piece of this, I'm going to start with the high level of aligning your email newsletter to your specific goals. So if you can toggle slides, toggle to the second one. So there's really fundamentally 3 styles of newsletter. So those 3 styles are a curator style, a commentator style, and a creator style. So next slide. So the first style that you can do with a newsletter is essentially just gather relevant information for folks. So in this one, you are going to go grab articles, threads, podcasts, This can be a whole wide range. You might be a company that curates grant opportunities or funding opportunities or a certain type of local event. But the idea here is you're essentially going to typically have a very targeted niche focus, and you're gathering a certain type of industry insight. So an example of this would be Morning Brew. Morning Brew basically is a curation style newsletter, one of the most successful, 1 million+ subscribers, and they basically just gather content and put it together in their sentence. Next slide. So this is just an example. One of the things that curator style newsletters often do is they'll have sections. So like in this case, you see this is like the world section. They might have a software section, a finance section. So that's kind of a preview or a good example to look at if you want to do a curator style, is to go look at something like Morning Brew. Next slide. So one of the questions here that often comes up is like, how do you find good content for curation style? So here you can go to the Google News tab. That'll give you kind of a fresh feed of new articles in that space. Another thing I recommend is to go to places like Reddit, and you can actually toggle and look at top articles and see interesting threads or pieces of conversation coming there. I think a really important note if you're trying to do a curation style is don't be limited by purely looking at just like Google content. Also pull in podcasts, pull in threads that come in from places like Reddit. Those are all really valuable. Another thing that you can do is you can use tools like Perplexity, which is an AI search tool. It gives you attribution on every AI search you do. So if you asked it, for instance, about how can I reduce churn, and you wanted to curate those kind of content pieces for folks, you could use something like Perplexity and then use their attributed sources as a possible place to curate from as well. Next slide. So the next style is going to be commentator. So commentator style is very similar to curator, but you're going to actually provide a little bit of original analysis versus just pulling the extract. So the example I use here is What I Read by Chamath. If you go to the next slide. The idea here again is he's still doing the same note. He's using external content, but you'll notice there's that original analysis. This is what I thought about it. They're kind of unpacking that. So you get a little bit of that thought leadership component while still relying on the outside content articles to be what's kind of the core meat of your newsletter. Next slide. So the goal of these two, so again, we're starting at the goal layer, like what are you trying to fundamentally do? This style often is really built on the relational or the kind of like the ABM side, right? You're pulling all these articles in, you have this opportunity to build relationships with folks. Like, hey, I'm going to use your podcast, or I'm going to use your article that was seen here. So you can use it as this kind of ABM style play. The other thing is it's very easy to serialize it. So this style is always kind of, you have a source or a pipeline of where you're often pulling that content from. So unlike some of the creator style that we're going to talk about, it's often pretty quick. You just like go to that source, you find the relevant stuff, you bring it in. So it can also be something that you can turn into a series quite easily, which I think is another benefit of these two styles. Next slide. The other type is what's called creator type. So creator type is where you're going to actually just provide original research, unique insights, firsthand data. So I just launched a newsletter recently called SaaS Steps that kind of breaks down individual stages of SaaS companies' growth. And we use a bunch of like firsthand data. We talk to SaaS companies, we learn about all their things. That exists inside of this creator style. Next slide. And this is just an example of the opt-in page. We're about to get into the best practices. So we're going to reiterate some of these pieces, but just note the importance of not only highlighting exactly what people are going to get each week, but also when they're going to get it. So both the nature of the content as well as the frequency of the content are both important pieces. Next slide. So here, the idea is more to build that topical authority, to actually kind of develop pipeline, brand awareness. This is often going to be a much broader audience that you're going to be able to kind of bring in, which is really valuable. So I think if you're trying to build topical authority in a certain area and have it really tied back to you, the creator style is often the best choice for that, building that trust and loyalty. Obviously, there's a little bit more time that's often spent because you're kind of developing actual unique content versus just kind of pulling it from these external sources. So I think that is our first stage. That's our first layer. We have to decide, do we want to do a curator style, a commentator style, or do we want to do a creator style of our newsletter? Understanding that those are going to fundamentally serve these kind of different purposes or these different objectives. So that's kind of one of the places that I would kind of kick off and start. And then I'm going to hop into another one here. And let me see if I can try one more time, see if I can share. Are you guys able to see my screen, or is it still not working for you? Is that showing up?
Yes, it's showing up.
Oh, brilliant. Cool. All right. So I'm going to kind of get into some of the best practices and kind of tactical pieces here. So I think the first thing that's super important is to essentially do that expectation setting. So I'm going to try to give some specific examples, just like we kind of had specific examples for each of those styles. I'm also going to spend some time going into some of the highest performing B2B newsletters and just talk about what they do well. So we're going to look at Growth Unhinged, Scaling SaaS from SaaStr, Mutiny, The Reader, things like that. So the first thing is, you'll notice right here that the idea of what kind of content you're going to get, actionable writing and marketing advice every Saturday. And each episode is 5 minutes or less to read. You'll see at the bottom there. So again, just emphasizing, try to make it really straightforward what they are going to hear about and when they are going to hear about it. Nearly all of the top newsletters do this. Super, super important. Growth Unhinged also has a really good example of two different things that I think is important to highlight. Growth Unhinged is a B2B newsletter that has, I think, 40 to 50,000 subscribers, very successful. Not only does that first newsletter reiterate every Wednesday at 6:50 Eastern time, we're going to walk you through these pieces. Very important, again, to reiterate that. But below that, they have, here are 5 of the most popular additions to get you started. Super smart way to allow people to engage immediately. So one of the things you want to be aware of is you don't want people to opt in and then not get any content for 2 weeks or 3 weeks because they're waiting for that next send. That's not a good user experience. You're going to lose some of that initial interest or excitement. So you always want to make sure that you deliver something immediately. And if you have a summary section like this, that can be a way to highlight some of your best content. So a very good best practice that you see being illustrated right here. The next thing I want to highlight is having multiple choices for folks based on what they're interested in can be really valuable. So I worked with John Hopkins, the hospital system, and basically we saw a massive lift in their engagement when their newsletters, essentially when they went from just one big newsletter that tried to do everything and amalgamated all of that into one spot to giving people multiple options. Notice here now people have this ability to, if they're interested in Parkinson's and movement, that person can now opt in to that specific one, or the health, or the one about the hospital, or the one about the clinical research, or the one about women's health. They're allowing it, instead of having it just itemized out and people have to find what they want, allow people to just opt in to exactly what they want. So that's another great best practice. Many people try to do too much with their newsletters. You want to stay really, really focused. There is so much noise in the inbox. It is very rare to see, if you go in a million directions, it's very rare to have that find success. So you want to be highly targeted in your approach as you kind of go through here. Another common question is, what about personalization, right? So some folks ask, like, how much should I ask up front? Should I ask for just email? Should I ask additional questions? There's no one right answer here, but I will tell you that there are many, like Morning Brew as an example, that ask for questions. They have on intake, they go take you through a process, and you'll notice it's actually a multi-stage process. So this is actually a good takeaway. There's a concept called progressive profiling. What it means is you can collect someone's email, then you can take them to the next step where you ask things about, like in this case, we're talking about like job function and job level, title. Could be things around what their focus is or key challenges are within the business. But the idea is that you still capture that email and you still can get that person initiated off the initial intake. But now you're going to go through these additional steps to gather more context so you can better personalize that journey. If someone says they're an e-commerce business versus a B2B SaaS, you can serve up a very different journey for those individuals, which I think is very valuable. So I think this is a good best practice for folks to consider. It's not going to be applicable to everyone. Some people that serve a pretty focused niche won't need to have that. but it's definitely something to be aware of. I would say more companies should do it than currently do it. So it's a good thing to just kind of have as part of your arsenal, if you will. The other thing I'll note that is, I think, very applicable to especially the best B2B newsletters, we're really drilling down on what works for email and B2B, is get deep into the data. And oftentimes this happens more on the creator side, although commentator styles can also get deep into the data. But I think scaling SaaS is a really good example of getting deep into the data and also that consistent match between expectation to reality. So one of the things that we think about a lot when it comes to newsletters is, what does someone expect and what does someone receive? So you want to make sure that you're meeting that expectation. We talked about that up front. This can also bleed into like even the subject lines. Scaling SaaS often follows this format of 5 interesting learnings from company at insert their revenue. And so you're always expecting that you're going to get 5 different tactics, 5 different insights of a company at scale and what is working for them. So if I'm an organization and I'm, 50 million ARR plus, I know that I can really lean into SaaStr for really solid, actionable, deep content in that world. So I think that's definitely very valuable. I think another thing that's just a cool best practice, and this is a little bit on the visual side, is it could be great to have a summary at the top if you're covering a couple different topics or fleshing out a couple different components of a more complex topic. So you'll see right here, if anyone here opts into Mutiny's newsletter, which is a B2B company, you'll see right here, it says, in this email, we're going to talk about these 3 things. I really like the strategic use of headers. I get to this email, I immediately can read through those 3 topics and decide whether the rest of this makes sense, or maybe number 1 and 2 don't make any sense, but I want to jump immediately to number 3. And that is what is going to be relevant to me, right? So I think this is something that folks should be thinking about and considering as they're kind of architecting that plan of, how do you make this digestible? How do you make this content something where someone can quickly skim? We know that attention is at an all-time low. So how can we kind of take advantage of that in a meaningful way? I think that's a good one. So that is a look into our second layer. So we started with kind of what is our goal, and does our goal fit more into curator, commentator, or creator? Now we're in our second layer, is like those best practices. Is it digestible? Is it really clear what someone's getting? Do you have an intake process that's intuitive? Are you capturing any kind of like personalized information? Now we're going to kind of move to the final layer. And the final layer is like, what is good benchmarks? So if you want to launch a new B2B newsletter, how should you be thinking about that? Like, or how fast should you look for revenue? How many subscribers should you be looking at? In what kind of time frame? Those can be tricky questions. And so one of the things that I did is I spent some time talking to 20 plus folks who have 10,000 or more subscriber newsletters, and just asking them, what were your benchmarks? What did things look like at different stages through your journey? And by doing that, I got some really good data and some really interesting ways that people are kind of looking at some of these pieces. So I'll kind of walk through with everyone. So the first is, this was the subscriber averages. So and I want to preface this again, this is top performing newsletter. So if the idea is to create a top performing newsletter, obviously there's thousands or maybe tens of thousands of newsletters that grow that aren't performing like this. But if you're looking for a top performer, this is what the data that I found was. Month 1, the average was 900 subscribers. Month 2, the average was month 3, the average was 2.2K. And month 6, the average was 4.9K. So if you launch a newsletter and within the first 6 months, you break 5K, you are in that top percentile. You are in a top percentile of newsletters. And this is data that you can bring in to your organization. If you're trying to sell the motion of creating a new newsletter, this is something that you have capacity to kind of come in and show people like, hey, looking at a lot of these top newsletters, this is the data that essentially this is what we're seeing, in other words. If I go down a little bit, I also spent some time just talking with folks about what was working, like what were the takeaways. So the first thing was, everyone focused on subscriber growth reach through the first 6 months versus revenue goals. I think this is a really important takeaway. We won't have the space here to unpack this fully, but when you're setting up owned assets, you need to create some size or velocity before you switch to that monetization side. If you try to monetize too quickly, if you try to get too product focused too quickly, you won't be able to reach velocity. So if you look at the best newsletters, you're going to notice that they have a lot of topical expertise. They're not getting super salesy or promotional too early. Because the idea is, what is going to help you get to 5,000, 10,000 subscribers as fast as possible? And then if you're targeting the right ICP, then you can advertise. Then you can introduce these elements of pushing more product-centric promo, but you now have control of this asset, which is much larger, versus do it too soon, you cut your growth. The second thing is share CTAs under social posts, in your social profile. If you go on podcasts, make sure that you're capturing interest on these kind of walled gardens, as they're sometimes called, or these outside platforms, and you're bringing that in and you're capitalizing to translate it. And then I'll just say finally, as we're kind of on time, is make sure you have a consistent style and delivery schedule. You want to build that expectation to reality, super important part of your success, and people kind of tuning in and expecting what you're going to deliver. So I hope that's a helpful kind of 3-tier framework for folks who want to do more with email marketing to think about creating a high ROI newsletter.
Wow. Thank you so much, Casey. It was like full of insights, and I really like that it was such a step-by-step guide.
We just shared the link to your LinkedIn, and we hope that maybe we're sure that people have some questions. So if you don't mind, they would contact you maybe if they have some additional questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Excellent points made here. So let's keep the ideas flowing. Next up, we have Katya Kladkova, Enterprise Sales Nordics at HubSpot, ready to enlighten us on how to work with inbound leads to maximize conversion. Insights from HubSpot. Let's see and let's listen to Katya.
Yeah, thank you, Olivia. Let me share my screen real quick. Okay. Guys, do you see my screen? All good? Okay, perfect. Let's start with just maybe introduce myself real quick. My name is Katya. I've been, in the past 6 years, I've been part of HubSpot and Figma companies. I've been on different roles, but as an individual contributor, I mainly worked small business, mid-market companies, recently moved to enterprise. And today I would love to talk about how to maximize conversion with inbound leads. I feel like in the recent years, a lot of businesses have seen a drop in inbound requests. So frankly, it's a bit painful to lose the business which initiated the conversation with us at the first place. And I wanted to share my thoughts with how companies can enable sales teams to do their best jobs to convert those inbound leads into a paying customer. And when we talk about inbound leads, the first thing that comes to mind is speed. To wait for food delivery or for a taxi or for Amazon parcel. In fact, a B2B buyer is a human, and we have high expectations. We want our questions to be answered really quick. So if it takes you days to reach out to your prospect, most probably this is not the best customer experience from the start. And here at HubSpot, for example, if we have an incoming lead, HubSpot is screaming at me to follow up. So we have a lot of notifications. I get a Slack notification. I have email notification. I get a pop-up notification on my phone as well. So HubSpot is obviously, as the company, they want us as sales team to reach out to those incoming requests as quick as possible. Another thing is HubSpot Tech, and obviously everyone who uses HubSpot, we also have this kind of home view for sailors on, okay, if I start my day, I have a calendar blocked from 8 till 9 in the morning, and first thing what I do, I go here and I look into my incoming leads. So basically from this place, I can kind of start looking into what I've got from the from the last time I saw it, and I will try my reach out. So that idea that if companies really want the sales team to be fast and to reach out to prospects when they really want to gather information or ask a question, there should be a process in place to enable sales team to do it. And when we have this lead, so like obviously as a salesperson, when I look into my lead profile, like what do we do? What should I do? What are my actions? And I always try to remember that our prospects do their own research. So probably they were browsing and gathering their own intel before they raised their hand. So the question is, what do you know about your prospect before your first meeting? How much information you can gather and get access to drive that meaningful conversation with them. So obviously, if you guys have a CRM, you're probably familiar with a CRM record. So you probably know how they converted, what form they submitted. You also have information about your calls, emails you're doing. But what we're seeing is more and more businesses are trying to figure out how to bring all of the data points that can tell a story about your buyers. How we can get this data in front of our salespeople. So the main goal here is to give sales team context and help them really better understand the profile of the buyer they're going to engage with. So if you look into this, okay, we have certain CRM data as a salespeople. We see our activities. We see what form was submitted from that lead or whatever. What if we also show you, let's say, Chris, my prospect, I can also see what Chris did before he submitted that form, what pages he was using on the website, what content he was trying to get familiar with. So all of the touch points, like what videos he was looking at HubSpot Academy, literally everything that is happening before that conversion. As a salesperson, I have access to it. I can see it like a Facebook timeline on what happened before Chris raised his hand to talk to me. And there are actually a lot of data that can empower that salespeople to kind of have that context in front of them. So website interaction, this is one thing. We can also take a look on online chats. Chris, did he go to online chat? What question he asked? As a salesperson, I really want to know that. We can also see app usage. Obviously, the data sits somewhere with the product team, but if Chris signed up for a trial, he was doing something in the product, he was exploring certain features, it would be really helpful for me to know as well. So basically, before I start my first phone call or before I go into the meeting with Chris, I kind of have a full picture of how this person has engaged with my company so far. As an example, at HubSpot, we sell 5 different products. So that information literally helps me to understand what might be a potential product of interest so I can basically prepare beforehand. Another thing is obviously AI. I need to tell a story about AI for sure. So if we have this data that our company is gathering, we kind of know the journey that person had before raising a hand. What else I can actually learn about this business before talking to Chris? And obviously in HubSpot, we use a lot of AI, mainly for sourcing and research. And today I just wanted to show you real quick on how we're using it for, let's say, quick company search. So imagine that I want to quickly understand HubSpot as the business. That is my prospect I want to reach out to. What I would do, I would just copy paste information from their recent report. And then I will just ask ChatGPT question. For example, I have some questions prepared, like what HubSpot is investing into based on report above. So what I will do, I will just ask a question to ChatGPT, and they will give me an answer here. Okay, wait. What HubSpot is investing into, or I can ask a question, what is the company growth in the recent year? What is the year-over-year growth? So it really depends on what you want to know about the business real quick, you can gather that information fairly quickly with ChatGPT. One thing that I also saw a lot of sales people are doing at HubSpot, let's imagine you can find a certain recent interview or article from their main shareholders of this business. You can also copy paste that article and just get the quick idea on what they're talking about, what are the challenges they're voicing to the public. So it's really quick way of using ChatGPT to gather that intel that you need before you even go into a conversation with your prospect. Another fairly important point that if we have, so now we are really prepared. So we know the journey that Chris did before raising the hand. We gather a lot of information about his company, so we kind of avoid asking very generic questions. Tell me about your company. So we are coming for that first meeting, first call with a plan. We kind of know where that conversation might go. We can prepare certain questions we want to ask. And here, it's really important, I believe, to voice that outbound and inbound, how they are really different in terms of the processes. So the way we work with outbound leads and inbound leads are profoundly different. When it's an outbound lead, you will probably start your meeting with a customer story. You will try to educate them on a problem you're solving, and then you will move to a solution talks. What I see is that a lot of sales team, when working with inbound requests, they're kind of pushing the same agenda. So that creates a lot of frustration for buyers. Like, imagine that they come for a call with you. They probably know your product a little bit. They probably learned something about your company. They probably have that need. They know what problem they want to solve. So it's really important kind of to give that space to a prospect and just get an idea on what's on their agenda. So we can start a conversation instead of just talking about our company, going into the solution talk. We can just start a conversation by a simple question like, okay, Mr. Prospect, what brought you to this meeting? What is that you want to get from this meeting? So the first thing on inbound kind of sales qualification is we want to acknowledge their need first and then set expectation by what you're trying to get from this meeting. Like, look, my main goal is obviously to understand what we're trying to get from this meeting, but also I would love to get a little bit more on what you're trying, get to know you a little bit better, know your business a little bit better. So I will probably ask you a few questions if you don't mind. So you kind of open up that conversation by acknowledging that they have their own agenda and you will not be ignoring that agenda. You will go into understanding, okay, why you here, what brought you here, what you even know about our company. So even before talking about HubSpot, I always ask, okay, but tell me, what do you know about HubSpot so far? So that really helped me to understand where they are in their journey, and that will kind of go, so we will go into a more meaningful conversation fairly quicker. Another kind of, if we talk about inbound leads, I spoke a lot about data. So if business can gather data about customer journey, push it to the salespeople. So salespeople have context. They have an idea, like what type of questions to ask and where the prospect is in their journey. We can also use this data to drive our sales process further. So a lot of, like, after your first call, you probably would send a follow-up email. You probably would share certain documents, or you will share a quote. Leveraging tools will also help you to be on top of certain signals that you can act on. So if you're sharing a quote, there are tools in the market that will give you a notification if they're opening your document, how long they are reviewing your quote, are they sharing your quote with other shareholders in the business. You will get that notification. So system will feed you that notification so you can reach out to people at the right time. Sales emails. So obviously you can see if they're opening your emails, if they're clicking on the links. The data that business is gathering, it's really important not just have it for reporting, but give that data to salespeople so they can act on it. I will give you an example just from my experience. I might talk to a prospect and we just ended up a conversation knowing that, look, that's not a good time to move forward. That's not a good time to proceed with the next step. So we kind of agreed to catch up maybe like in 3 months. And then in 1 month's time, HubSpot will give me a notification that that prospect is on the pricing page, that they're viewing a pricing page, or maybe they are opening again my email or my quote. That is the time that I will give that proactive call to my prospect. So instead of waiting for my scheduled task to give them a call in 3 months, I will probably give them a call straight away and just ask if there's if this is a good time to reconnect. So having the data will enable you not only to kind of build a picture and a story about your buyer, but also that will enable you to react faster on certain notifications that can help you to be that person who calls at the right time. And if you are really growing with, like, if you have that speed that you reach out first, that you give them an idea that you know them already, that builds a lot of trust, that builds a lot of positive experience for them as the buyer. And obviously emotions are really important in every salesperson. If they just like you, they will probably want to get more conversations with you. And another example I just wanted to give, again, from my experience about online chat, if I go to my contact record at HubSpot CRM, I can actually see if this person is having a chat having a chat conversation right now, literally live. And sometimes it happens that I would just reach out to that person straight away and say, hey, Luis, I saw your message in chat. I'm your point of contact. How can I help? So that data can actually help me not to reach out to them even before they raise their hand with the question. So being that proactive will probably just give the kind of wow effect for your prospect, and they will just be impressed by the way you're working, the way you are engaging with your buyers. At this point, thank you. You can scan this code just to connect me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. But yeah, let's have a conversation if you have any questions to kind of inbound process, sales process at HubSpot. I'm really happy to jump on.
Thank you. I hope that everyone scanned the code. So do you have time for questions?
Well, yes, we do. I mean, let's start with the comment. It's not a secret. We're big fans of HubSpot. Guys, thank you so much for sharing how cool it is to combine all these pieces of information at HubSpot. Actually, I think that was one of the main reasons why we decided to switch from our previous CRM system, because this is amazing when you are able to track all those touch points with the prospect, with a contact, when you're able to nurture this contact and notify your sales team that, hey, actually, this person, this contact is qualified, and take a look, start this conversation. And another point that I want to add is actually, I'm a fan how HubSpot combines inbound and outbound. Well, it's interesting that it's mainly starts with inbound, right? And outbound's supports inbound flow, right?
Right. I would say that at HubSpot as a sales team, we probably spend 60% of our time on outbound and 40% of inbound. So obviously, even now we also see a bit of a drop of inbound requests. So we're very focused on outbound. And HubSpot develops its product so we develop the product for our need as an organization as well. So when we see that the world is switching and more customers want to be focused on outbound, we kind of try to develop our tool to support that, right? So when we see that we as an organization, we wanted to build more focus on outbound, because HubSpot is a $2 billion organization. We grow with 25% year-over-year growth. That's a huge growth. And to sustain that, obviously inbound is just not enough. We need to expand. We need to speak to more businesses. We need to grow ourselves. So we realized that, look, we need to support our salespeople to go outbound, what we can do in the product. And we started to build a lot of intel, like recent acquisition of Clearbeat to feed data into HubSpot. So all of this are showing that we are developing our product, first of all, to support our sales team, but this is something that our customers can leverage as well.
And this is one of the best approaches, right? When you first adopt the idea internally, then just provide it externally. This is amazing, really. Thank you, Katya. Really, I believe that everyone at this conference enjoyed every word that you were speaking about, combination of the two flows. And basically, just another comment from me, this is probably another proof that inbound and outbound are truly interconnected. And the way a company is using both motions, I could say so, it truly leads to a success. Like, it just probably takes time and effort to set up this interconnection, but as a result, I mean, there will be a predictable flow of leads.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. And I hope that you're ready to dive into the next session on how sales leaders manage and prevent burnout among their salespeople. Joining us to explore this is Amy Johnson, VP of Sales at Marina Life and mentor at Girls Club. Let's give a warm welcome to Amy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. Gosh, what a hot topic right now, especially. I don't know if I'm even the best person to talk about this, but I'm going to give it a whirl. And I know myself, like, I have struggles right now with burnout, and everybody does. So if you can take one nugget out of this, like, that would be great. I hope that you can. So let me pull up some slides real quick. All right. So I'm Emmy Johnson. I'm a VP of Sales at Marina Life. I'm going to do this quickly, but I always love to know who's talking to me. So I've been in sales my entire career, mostly in SaaS and technology and B2B sales. But most notably, probably, I grew and led a sales development organization at a cybersecurity company called ZeroFox. That's what a lot of people know me for. But I really specialize in kind of that go-to-market strategy. I know the last session with HubSpot was talking about inbound, outbound. And where I've really been able to shine was the kind of the marry of marketing and sales and how important it is. And so that's where I've done most of my work and consulting. I've also been dubbed the culture queen. I don't know about that, but I do like to have fun on the job, and hopefully, some of this that I'm talking about today will help with, leading to decreased burnout. So just some fun facts about me. I am a single mom of 3. Right now, my kids are 10, 9, and 8, which is while they're definitely in their activity era. And so I not only have this full-time job, I also have a full-time job as what I call an Uber driver, because I feel like I'm constantly just driving them around every night to the different various things. I'm originally from Philadelphia, so I still love all Philadelphia sports. Go Birds. I played and coached Division I lacrosse, and I am the only girl. I have 3 brothers. And so a lot of people attribute all of these things to my potty mouth, but I think that's just who I am. So let's talk about burnout. Burnout is real. And I think right now it's at an all-time high, unfortunately, because of economical situations, and not necessarily in sales, just in general. Companies are having a hard time. They're doing layoffs. They're cutting costs everywhere possible. This puts a ton of pressure on sales because we are the revenue generating organization. So you might have an amazing product, but if your team can't sell it, then you're not bringing revenue into the organization. And so when there's challenges with being able to sell and quotas are going up, it inevitably is going to put pressure on sales team and lead to that burnout. People are feeling undervalued. They're feeling, overworked and underpaid. And that's across the board. But I think sales especially is feeling it because companies aren't buying anything. I mean, I know from my personal experience, we are not buying anything unless it's absolutely mandatory. We're even evaluating things that we currently have. Look at this tool. Do we absolutely need it? How many licenses do we have? Can we decrease seats? It's just anywhere you can possibly reduce costs because sales aren't increasing the way that we're expecting or forecasting. Maybe as a salesperson, you're used to traveling a lot and you're not allowed to anymore, or it decreased a ton. You used to have a big, expense budget, and now you're not allowed to expense anything, or it's very tight about what you are. Those things all lead to, kind of stress in sales of this is not what I'm used to, and it's making me very uneasy. So this is a problem across the board. I added this in here because a friend of mine who knew I was doing this sent this to me. This was recently CNN posted on their Instagram that a third of big companies are, evaluating different ways to help with the burnout. So they're looking at, 4-day work weeks, or, just anything that they're experimenting with different things to try to decrease that burnout that's happening a lot across the board. So again, I'm not sure if I had the answers. There's certainly not a easy button for this, but when I think about what motivates me or salespeople in general, and I've had a lot of salespeople report to me over the years, and as I talk to them about what motivates them, I kind of break it down into a few different factors. So the first, I don't have them in bold for a reason. So the number one thing I think that people are motivated by, especially salespeople, is compensation. So what's the base salary? What's my OTE? What's my variable? How much can I make? Is the quota attainable? So typically when someone's looking to leave, that is the number one factor. This job is paying me more money. The other thing is promotion or upward mobility. A lot of, sales reps in particular want to get into leadership positions, and that just may not be available, right? It may, in your company, because of the economy or just in general right now, we just don't have the positions to put them in. But those two things are really out of our control. A lot of times there's not much we can do about it. So the other things I think are where we focus to say, okay, these we can impact and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. And they are recognition, a flexible work schedule, and having fun on the job. And I'm going to dig into each a little bit separately. So the first one is recognition. I think it's funny because I always say, I would ask reps if they wanted $1,000 or to be recognized to like the publicly, or like me to send an email to the CEO, and that's what they would choose. But I think it's natural. Like it's in our nature as humans to want to feel appreciated for the work that we're doing, even if it's small. And I think sometimes the big things, like if you have a quota and you're hitting it, or you got a new customer, those, inevitably get kind of recognized by people. But it's some of the smaller stuff that, flies on the radar. And especially right now where maybe we're not getting these big sales, we're not bringing on new customers, but you're working your ass off, having someone point out either publicly or, in a one-on-one setting is really, impactful. And it does help with, your happiness and your just kind of the burnout factor. So I listed a couple of things that I think are easy to do, but again, it's just making them a priority to do. So, whether it's public or in a one-on-one setting, I think an easy thing is if you do department updates or have all hands meetings, making a point to pepper in there to certain reps stuff that they did. And again, it doesn't have to be they got this big deal or, they got a new customer. It can be smaller things, but shouting them out, publicly is really important. The next is company-wide emails or like Slack messages if you use Slack. I know for us, we have automated emails that go out for some of those bigger things. Like I said, hey, we got a new contract or whatever. And so everybody sees those, but it's more, shouting out some of the smaller stuff, whether it's in Slack or in an email. I put a happy dance in here because when I was at ZeroFax, about every week or every couple of weeks, I would send what I call my happy dance email because I like to dance when I'm happy. And I would just recognize people for little things. It could be the most calls or the most emails sent, the most meetings set. But it's a way to recognize a lot of people to a broader group. And I would always send it to the entire leadership team, usually the sales organization, but other people, just so that they felt like, wow, I'm being publicly recognized. And then, maybe the CEO or the CRO or someone would say, hey, great job. And that means a lot and goes a long way. Recognition platforms. I put this on here because we use Assembly, but I know there's a ton of them. I'm not saying you need to go out and buy them if you have the means to, for sure. They're great. But it's a way to shout out, recognize people for, it could be something silly. Hey, you helped with the office move, or you solved this problem for me and I really appreciate it. You give them points, which they can, you assign a point to a recognition, and they can either compile their points or, exchange them one-off for things like Southwest gift cards or different retail stores and stuff like that. This especially is good when you can't maybe give the same monetary, compensation, but you're still able to reward. It has a dollar value to it at the end of the day. So I think those things are great. Displayed dashboards. I put this on here, but you have to kind of feel out, your team's better. It could go both ways. I think it's very motivating, especially for the people that are at the top of the leaderboard. Maybe not so much for the people at the bottom. It could be demoralizing. So again, you kind of have to feel out that situation. But I think it breeds like healthy competition among, your peers, and it can be a really great thing. The other thing that I've done, and I try to do every year, is either AE SDR Appreciation Day. And so I'm sure you've heard about this before, but I started this a long time ago. I don't even know how long ago now, where a whole day, and it's a surprise to the team, is based around the organization recognizing and thanking the hard work that they do. This was an SDR team at the time, but you can do it really for any team. But it's to say, like, SDRs, their job is thankless. They're doing one of the hardest parts of sales. They're cold calling, cold emailing, and especially in, the state of the world today, that's even harder. So it was everybody from the leadership, the sales team, thanking them and saying they really appreciate what they do for the company. And so, I would do different, events throughout the day, but always decorate their desks so that when they come in, they know it's a surprise. But I have done tons of things, like we did an executive call blitz one year where we all make calls for them for an hour. I do like superlatives, kind of awards for people. And we always end with like a happy hour or some kind of team function, which is really fun. But again, it goes to show that you're appreciated. We see the hard work that you're doing and we recognize it. The impact award, it could be called different things, but it's, I've done this at a couple companies where it's a quarterly award that the leadership votes on. It can be for anyone in the company, but it's really to say that we're recognizing you for making a huge impact on the company as a whole. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an impact on your department, just in general. And so it's voted on. It's usually a stock-based award. So if you're, a private company, it's a great way to recognize people without there being a monetary implication. And the last is the prize wheel. I don't do this right now because I don't have a wheel, but think of a Wheel of Fortune kind of wheel, and I would update it probably quarterly with the prizes that are in the different sections. And it could be anything from Southwest gift card, a case of beer, to better luck next time. And they would really hate when they would get that one with their spin. But you set a target of like, hey, you get a wheel spin for this. And again, the prizes are not huge in monetary value, but they do go a long way. So those are just a couple, things that I think there's plenty of things you can do to recognize, but it's really making a point to do that because it helps with people's motivation and, keeping them happy on the job. The next is work-life balance, or like having a flexible schedule. I think this is really important these days. And I know with COVID, everybody was working from home, and now it's kind of a hybrid situation, or companies want you back in the office. That's causing a lot of duress as well, because people were kind of comfortable working with home, and now they're being forced to go back into the office. And so sometimes it's, I'm burnout, or I'm looking to leave because I don't want to go back into the office. There's a lot of things, and I think setting expectations with your employees and saying, this is what I want, but also what is it that you need? The more flexible you can be, the better. I know, I have a situation that's challenging being, a single mom and having my kids be so active. So flexibility is really important to me. However, I enjoy going into the office. I like the collaboration. I think it's great to be around people, even if it's only once or twice a week. There's something to be said for just that, camaraderie that you get, even if you're not communicating, just sitting in an office with the music on and working with someone right next to you. It's different than being home by yourself. And so, but I think the most important thing is being realistic and sitting down and establishing that, having a kind of set schedule. Okay, you're going to come in Tuesdays and Thursdays every week, but flexible meaning, something comes up and, hey, this week I'm going to come in Wednesday instead of Thursday because I have a doctor's appointment or something. That goes a long way for someone to feel like they're respected and that their boss and employer, knows that they're going to get their stuff done and trusts that they're doing what they need to do. That goes a long way. I love the quote, schedule your priorities instead of prioritizing your schedule. I think that's an easy trap that we all fall in, of looking at our workday and just being like, oh my gosh, and I got to do this, this, and this. But thinking about the things that really make you happy and that you need to do in order to stay sane is really important. Maybe that's working out. I don't know. Or like, okay, I really want to work out. I know that makes me feel better. So scheduling, every day on your lunch break, you're going to work out, or, I'm going to go to this class at this time. But thinking about those things that you need to do that are going to make you a better employee, and, scheduling that and being honest with, your employer and vice versa, and setting realistic expectations. I think being able to unplug is really important. And especially with work from home, this has become I'm always available kind of thing. You might be at your kid's game and you're checking your phone and responding to emails. That's not healthy. And that's where we get burnout, because we're literally working around the clock. I know sometimes when I'm working from home, if I, don't have any meetings where I'm on camera, I might, put the kids on the bus, start working. I'm still in my pajamas. I haven't even brushed my teeth. And next thing you know, it's lunchtime. That's not healthy, right? So setting a routine, whether you're home or not, getting up and then being able to plug. I'm done at this time. I'm not checking my emails. I'm not in work mode. I need to be in my personal mode. With that, I think it's really important to set boundaries around your work schedule. And this is something I think I do well, because I have to. Everyone that works for me and, knows, and I'll put it in the calendar. I put my kids on the bus in the morning, and then if I'm in the office, I need to leave around 3:34 because I want to be home to get them off the bus. Now I might get back online, but they know during that time, I'm probably not going to be available. I'm probably not going to respond to a message or an email. And everyone kind of knows that. But if you're constantly, late at night, responding to emails, you see it on your phone, you respond to it, or even if you get on your computer or a Slack message, then you're setting the precedence that you're always available. So stop doing that. and talk to your boss. These are my boundaries. I know I have a weird schedule in that the nights that they're with, their dad, my kids are with their dad, or maybe the weekends, I might work, I might catch up on work then, but I do not expect a response. And I make sure to say that, if it's over the weekend, I'm sending this because I'm working, but please do not respond. I don't expect people to. It's just what I need to do to catch up or the time that I have. But that's because I schedule things that are important to me. And sometimes that's during a standard work hour. And the last thing I'll say is just schedule vacations. We all have PTO, or maybe you have unlimited PTO, but really make an effort to schedule a vacation and try to unplug. But in sales, definitely prepare for them. I think one of my biggest pet peeves is when reps would say to me like, oh yeah, I'm not hitting my quota. They would use it as an excuse. Well, you knew you had this vacation, so you need to plan for it. And that's really all I'm going to say there. The last thing is fun on the job. I think there's been tons of studies that have been shown that the more fun, the more you enjoy what you're doing, and the more fun you have at work, the more happy you are and less burnout. Obviously, this is harder with a work from home situation or a hybrid situation to do, because in the office you could easily, turn on the music or do team workouts at lunch or whatever. But there's plenty of things that you can do to create fun. And it could be something that you're already doing with your work, but just making it fun. So gamification, I think that's huge. You can use tools to do that, or you can run them yourself. There's plenty of games, and that's something I love to do. I think campaigns around, hey, everyone that hits this goal, we're doing a crab feast or whatever. Everyone that hits this certain, threshold, we're doing a crab feast. Doing team outings once in a while, just, getting out together and really enjoying each other's company outside of work and trying not to focus on work is great. And that's pretty much it. I know we're running up on time, so I have a couple more, just some advice, and I put advice for reps as well. I think the biggest thing for managers is just making sure to prioritize recognition and gamification. I know I don't always practice what I preach, especially when I'm feeling the pressure and burnout myself, but really making a point to do anything you can to recognize your employees, and then also just take what they're already doing and turn it into a game, into March Madness, a point system, or, whatever. Don't cancel one-on-ones or team meetings. I know this is really, easier said than done, especially when you're feeling like, oh man, I'm just not in the mood. But this is their chance to vent too. And it's important for them to have that exposure to you. And so just don't cancel it, because if you do, that leads to, kind of unknown and that unsettled feeling as well, which can lead to burnout. And then be as transparent as you can be. I say as you can be, because I know there's some stuff that you can't share as a leader, but just, not going around being like, yeah, this sucks, because your attitude is what they feed off of. And if you're not in a positive state of mind, it's going to snowball. And then they start feeling, oh man, like if he thinks this quota is too high, man, maybe it is. So just remember to stay positive and be as transparent as you can be. And then for reps, I think the biggest thing is just remember the grass is not always greener. So even if the money is better, that doesn't mean the situation is going to be better. And remember that, especially right now in this economy, if the money is a lot better, then the quota is probably going to be a lot higher, and there's going to be a lot more pressure. So just keep that in mind. Try to celebrate small wins. It's not going to be as positive maybe right now. So anything you can do to, celebrate stuff that maybe is not those big, wins that you normally do is going to be important. And then don't shy away from failure. I think in sales in general, there's so much rejection, and you can't take it personally. You have to just make a game out of it, embrace your mistake, learn from them, and just move on. Remember, I always tell my reps, there's plenty of fish in the sea. Get to the no quick and move on, find the next one. And just remember, again, it's not personal. And so just, keep trucking. And then lastly, if you're curious, ask about something, don't assume. I think this is the biggest thing, especially when managers are canceling one-on-ones or not communicating effectively. Reps, people in general, just assume that there's bigger problems than there maybe is. And so it's really important that you ask if you think there's a problem. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Emmy. A quick question. What is your favorite type of recognition?
What's my favorite type of what?
Recognition.
Oh, recognition. Oh gosh. Currently I love getting the assembly points because then I just collect them and I'll turn them in for, a Lululemon gift card or something, and so I like that. But anytime publicly recognized is really great.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, and as we continue our day, and basically we are moving to the outbound block of the conference, we come to a highly anticipated panel discussion. Is personalization really the way to close more deals? This session will examine if focusing on personalization in sales strategies can lead to better deal closure rates or is overrated. So let's introduce our panelists. Ian Naylor, co-founder of High Price. Jordan Crawford. Jordan Crawford, founder of Blueprint.
Oh, hello. Are we talking?
Right, we were just setting up, right? Michael Lieben, CEO at ColdIQ, and David Delaney, founder and CEO at Tenbound. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Okay. We're so happy to have you here. A note to the people in chat: please ask your questions. We will address them later on. And now let's kick things off with some of our questions. So, first question: can you share a time when personalization didn't work as you expected? Would you like to start, Ian?
Yeah, absolutely. I think personalization, especially in the context we're talking about B2B growth, is best done when we can scale it. So of course, whenever you try to scale something as specific as personalization, you can get into problems. And I think I've seen it many times where people try to fake the personalization at scale. So they'll say, hey, I've checked out your website, or I've looked at this, or we did this together, and it's kind of assumed personalization, so kind of faked rather than genuine. And I think that can, when it works, it's great, but when it fails, it's just so obvious and it just feels a little bit wrong. So I think anytime when you try to do too much in that first touch point with personalization, I think having some personalization to, grab their attention, trigger a pattern interrupt is fantastic, of course. But if you try to do too much in that first one, I think, you can potentially fall down some pitfalls.
Got it. Thank you. Jordan would like to join.
Oh, yeah. I just fundamentally disagree with the whole premise of this idea of personalization, because it puts us down a path about trying to get attention. Now, you could talk about my fancy jacket, but that has nothing to do with my desire to buy anything. And so I think instead, the AI models are absolutely spectacular at providing relevant information. If you can give them context on a problem that your buyer has, you can constrain how they respond to that problem, which is the kind of prompt here. And then you can ask them to be ultra creative. And so I ran a campaign recently where we took a screenshot of a Facebook ad. We had GPT-4 describe the Facebook ad, and then we pumped that into Claude to give me ideas about why that ad specifically sucked. And I could do that at scale. And that is a stepwise change than talking about personalization. I think kind of the value in personalization is really about having high deliverability rates with enough differentiation in the message so that you can do this stuff at scale. But saying, Jordan, I saw your LinkedIn post, and isn't it great that X, Y, or Z, and then dumping into whatever your product does is not the way forward here. Mic drop.
Well,
No one's gonna
I-
respond to
I was going to say we need a buzzer for whoever's going to answer the question first.
Yeah.
It's like
Find out.
Jeopardy.
So
Well,
I think I want to jump onto this one because I guess
sure.
the question was about a time when personalization didn't go as expected. And so it's funny that Jordan is mentioning LinkedIn post because I did run a campaign personalizing based on LinkedIn post. And so, the issue with LinkedIn post is that people post about just anything. And so like our whole idea was we were just going to personalize based on what was the content. This would be the way we would grab attention. And then I think like the topic, when someone was talking about the war, some war, and like the way this personalization works is something like, hey, I saw your post, and then just describe with AI what the post is about, and then we were like, well done. But then like someone is posting someone's sad about the war, and so and so this was not the best campaign we've made, and so I would tend to agree with Jordan. I think like it's very useful to leverage AI for qualification research and then try to do something relevant. That said, like I would say like the underrated effect of personalization is if you will be doing some scale or enough scale, then this has the impact of randomizing your template. And so if you have a message that works and you are sending the same message 1,000 times, at some point Google and Outlook are not happy. But with this small snippet of personalization, you can keep with it for longer.
It's a deliverability variable here at that point, which makes a lot of sense, right? And I think that is a good use of personalization. We did the same thing. We did an AI fact about their location. Like, hey, did you know that the USS Michigan was the first sub out of Norfolk, Virginia? Which was wrong. Which when it was wrong, actually, it was better reply rates because people were like, actually, it wasn't. It wasn't the USS Virginia. It was the USS Commonwealth. And I'm like, got you, But I'll tell you that if you're thinking about scale and really sending a lot of high volume, that's when I don't think about this as personalization. I think of this as driving the most amount of variables in the email, which is like, here's the nearest blah, blah, blah. Here is the blah, just like taking information so that every email that's sent out has enough unique text here that I don't have to go rebuild the inboxes to maintain high deliverability.
I mean, isn't that personalization though? I mean, using variable data and using it to grab their attention.
Yeah, this is a good point. I think that the way that people talk about personalization is that they talk about it in lieu of targeting, which is let me go after all VPs of marketing, and then like if I can just say something cool and then jump into it's show up and throw up is what usually personalization looks like. So which is like say something unique about Jordan and then write 4 paragraphs about what your product does or your service does. And I just don't think focusing on personalization, I think focusing on targeting is a much more interesting thing.
No, absolutely. I think everything that I said before was caveated with you were targeting the right people in the first place, right? I think 101 is targeting. You've got to have the right audience and have the right pitch for that audience. But then I think still best practices that you personalize on top of that, within that specific identified target. I think that's.
I'm curious to get out of this. Sorry, I don't mean to monopolize the conversation, but the way that I think about targeting, though, is the targeting is the message. If you're just targeting VPs of marketing or whatever, the more columns of unique information you have, and let me give you a perfect example. One of the customers that I was chatting with said, my best customer are CTOs that have just been let go, engineering teams that have just been, or a new CTO that's joined, engineering teams that have just been let go, and they're hiring for a lead engineer. That means that they're going to outsource. And so the message in that case is actually just the targeting. Jordan, these 4 things are happening in your business. And generally when those things happen, people do X, Y, or Z. Are you doing X, Y, or Z? And that's not about personalization per se. That's taking the insight, bringing it to the targeting, and taking the targeting to the message.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. But one thing I would say about this is, usually you want to build a hypothesis as to why someone would reply. And so this is where you've got those variables that you bring in, the fact that someone just got laid off, or like they started recently, and then you layer a lot of these. Like it does happen pretty frequently that you can be wrong on that. So to me, it's like the targeting becomes the message, but also you want to make sure that you validate or you invalidate your hypothesis. And so for me, it's always a matter of the client tells me if they just started at their role and maybe like the team has, I don't know, 5 or 6 marketers, then like it's a very good sign for me. But then for me, the question is, let's prove them right, or like let's show them that they're wrong. And so you want to make sure that you have a messages for both of these instances.
Yeah.
Personalization, definitely a really hot topic. David, do you want to add something here?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's starting with deliverability. I think even before you think about personalization, it's have you figured out your deliverability strategy, and making sure that the message can reach the audience in the first place. I think people tend to skip over that, and then we don't really care about if I'm from UC Santa Cruz or if I've lived in San Francisco for 20 years or things like that. It's more of the business problems that the prospect is trying to solve, and knowing that. And so just to reiterate Jordan's point, is really understanding the targeting and the business problems that you solve and weaving that into the message versus what I see a lot is I see that you went to UC Santa Cruz or these random facts that I think that people pick up pretty quickly that are generated through AI or something like that.
Yeah, but I think that with personalization, it used to work though, because back in the days when we didn't have AI that could just go on each website and give us a random bunch of information, then what you wanted to prove to people is that you had done some research, and like it was good enough to trick people into thinking that you actually went on their website. And so I remember back in the days, I was doing some outbound and we were targeting e-commerce websites. And so I was pretending that I had been on every website. And the way I was pretending that I had done that is I had an oversee team, and I would ask them to go on the website, some VAs, to note down the name of a product. And I would say, hey guys, I went on your website and I saw this product. And so anyways, like this playbook is now outdated, because back in the days, you needed to put together a team of oversee people and actually have someone go on the website and know the name of a product, which would mean that someone receiving the message would think, oh, like they actually did go on my website, because there's no way they could have found this information. But today it's just way too easy. So it's like, because it's way too easy, you need to go one step further. And unfortunately, it doesn't work anymore.
It's so funny. I was one of the things that I had explored was taking the website and inventing a personal story about how I use the product. And it was like, I couldn't send it. It's like, hey, my wife bought some diapers from this place and we love and it just went it told a whole story. So now I'm going to have, so for sure that would get replies, right? But now I'm going to have to get a call. It's like, hey, how's your wife doing? It's like, oh yeah, no, I don't know wife. Yeah. It's like, I don't have any diapers, And so you could just take this to the 100th degree. But to David's point is that I definitely have found non-personalized templates that work. And what happens is they get flagged on the inboxes. And so there is totally a path where I could send non-personalized great emails that are working. And I just have to spin up new infrastructure. And so you personalize, I think, to mitigate the idea of having the sort of painful process of having to create new infrastructure. But so there is totally a world to an argument to be made, which is don't innovate anymore on copy. Deliverability is where you can get a 10x improvement because you're hitting the inbox. And so if you don't have that, you have nothing.
Yeah. And Jordan, in that case, that funny story about the diapers, are you optimizing for a response? Are you essentially, you're trying to get some kind of response, because it's almost impossible to get a response. So is that okay?
Well, I mean, what we're doing now to do this is basically we're inserting so many AI generated variables that there's enough difference in the email in the hopes that the spam traps won't catch us. And so in some cases, we're saying yo, AI, go search the web and give me, we may not use this exact variable because it's a little controversial, but give me the nearest police station. Go give me, we're looking at schools and we're looking at search around the school and give me the nearest schools. So I can say, or tell me other people in the district. And so go find the principal names of those other schools and personalize with other people. Like, have you talked to these people in the IT department? So that if you look at any given message, it is different enough that you can maintain high deliverability, and that that the personalization is not necessarily to drive up response rates. It's just to save the email infrastructure for longer.
Which drive us to the second question. How do you balance the scale of your outreach with the needs of personalization?
Yeah, I think we hit the nail on the head with that before. It really comes down to targeting. If you do your targeting correctly, your pool of people you need to contact should be significantly less. And so the need to send out to tens of thousands of people is massively reduced. And as we've talked about already, the hot topic of deliverability becomes a much easier topic when we're not trying to scale to crazy numbers. And that the key to all of that is whether we call it personalization or targeting, or the personalization of your targeting, to the point where you're dealing with a specific pain point to a specific target audience, and therefore your message is targeted to that. And like as Jordan said, having some variable snippets in there, the more variables, so your message doesn't appear to be templated. That's really the key, I think.
I think about this in two paths. The first path is really reversing from actual buying behavior, and what is the best possible thing you could send at low scale, and then scaling that. And so this is like, I had a customer that had a really interesting idea. They're like, I will ask support a question on email, I will call, and then I will chat. And if I get 3 different answers, I take those 3 answers back to the chief customer officer and say, hey, your agents are answering questions differently. Do you think you should unify your knowledge? Right. And that's an amazing play, because it's actually about a business problem. I'm showing that I understand their business problem. Now, doing it at scale is a different question. But if the thing works, you can invent a process to scale it. Now, what most people are doing is the other thing, which is basically treating cold emails like ads. And so, which is fine to do, but in that world, you actually need a gigantic audience, and all you're doing is fishing. And you're saying, generally, people like you have these sorts of problems. The personalization is, a kind of little extra bonus. And then all you're doing is trying to get in the inbox as much as possible. And that's just an ad. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those are 2 separate go-to-market ideas.
Yeah, I also think that back in the days, scaling and personalization were something that wouldn't work together. So really, it would mean that you had to do this manual research over and over and over. But then it's like, if you do as Jordan says, and you imitate kind of this manual research, but you have AI do it, then you don't actually spend that much more time doing it, which means that you can have scale and personalization, especially if you use some of these tools that let you browse websites and browse some, I don't know, other pieces of information about companies. And so to me, it's never going to be a matter of like balancing both, because I feel like I can have both. My main issue is how big the market is, because this is what's going to prevent me from sending at a bigger scale.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, there's a stat going around that I don't know where it comes from, but it basically, people are saying that if you look at the 100% of the total addressable market, there's only 5% that are actively, in a situation where they might respond, or they have a business issue that they might be interested in talking to you about. And is that a real statistic, or is that just somebody made it up and they
I'm sure it's made
feel
up.
like I'm going to post it online and start talking about it?
Well, I mean, I don't know. The way I think about this is like, sure, there are people in market, and if you can catch them, amazing, right? Like, there are people that are actively in a buying cycle, but it's not like, I think people wake up every day with the same problems that they had yesterday, usually. And so it's really about having a unique insight on their problem and saying, look, you've been sold A, B, C, or D today. And so I have seen cases, I mean, I don't know, most of the startups that are growing at a breakneck speed are not doing so because they are able to find that 5%. It's because they're able to convince the 95% that the way in which they're solving the problem today is actually not an efficient way. And they have some unique, clever insight about why that is 10 times less efficient than what they're doing. And the problem is that most people, when they think about outbound, don't do that at all. All they do is throw up their speeds and feeds. And you're selling most people in the B2B SaaS world are selling to other B2B SaaS folks. And so that bar is like way, way, way higher because they have been pitched everything under the sun. And so I don't think that you're necessarily in the B2B SaaS world. Yeah, maybe you're trying to find those 5%. But if you start thinking about other verticals, what you're trying to do is to convince them that the way in which they're doing business today is not the most efficient way.
But I think it's made up because I heard 3%. So every time I hear the statistic, it's
Love it. Love it. How do you think personalization in sales will change in the next 5 years? David, do you want to start?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think that we used to spend a lot of time doing manual grunt work and research, and really smart people would outsource a lot of that out to lower cost markets. And now, and especially, I mean, it's really amazing if people on this call are not following the other panelists. These guys are like on the bleeding edge of setting this up. You don't have to necessarily either do it all yourself or rely on an outsourced team because of the tools that are being developed right now, to be able to help you with your deliverability, to target, to get very, very precise, personalized, quote unquote, information and put it into a message that resonates with the audience. And it's just going to be more and more rapid and targeted as we move forward over the next few years.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that when you look at personalization, the way it used to be, was those attention grabbing hooks, and it's like as senders just realized that the way they were selling before works and is way less efficient than it used to be, then they have to find greater insights as to how to properly personalize. And so, to me, it's pretty clear that every personalization or any personalization that's not relevant or that doesn't add anything to the pitch will soon become outdated, just because of the fact that you have more and more people waking up to the fact that you can use some very great tool for research, and that if you manage to have a good point of view on the research you made, then this increases the result a lot, because you will have been targeting people on the right people. And so I think that now we are talking about personalization, then in the future we'll be talking about finding the right person. And then this is repeating Jordan's point. It's really a matter of if I'm able to put my offer in front of the right person, then whatever I'm saying, it will work. And so me just describing how I found them becomes my pitch, because I'm just saying, hey, my excuse for reaching out to you is because I saw X, Y, and this other thing. And usually people who suffer or who are going through this situation have this other thing. Is it true for you? And so, and so to me, it's like, now what we try to do is we don't try to hard pitch features. We just try to find out if our assumptions was true, because if our assumption was true, then they will be interested in talking with us. And so this is, I think, where personalization is going.
Yeah, and I think actually it will be more of the sort of AI bots that you will be able to teach. A founder will be able to teach an AI bot what they're doing and say, go follow me. Follow me as I go around the web, as I research, as I'm doing my founder-led sales. And instead of hiring these sales teams to sort of go cold call, you'll be able to teach a model. Now, just last thing I'll say is like we have switched over from GPT-4 to Claude Haiku for most of our personalization, which is the cheapest model. It's about 10 times cheaper than GPT 3.5. And I can give it a template and it will reliably reproduce that template at fractions of a penny. And so I think that the future will be taking more of the unstructured web and structuring it and delivering that one by one to people.
What did you say? Sorry, I just wanted to hear the name of the model Jordan described. You said Kodaku?
Haiku. It's the cheapest of the models. So it's Haiku, Sonnet, and Opus. And so they can take 200,000 tokens. So you can just dump in a bunch of information, and the best way to do the personalization here is actually to provide those little squiggly brackets that you always say, and have the AI invent things within the creative constraint within context, which is my framework here, and saying, write a 2 to 3 summary, write a 4 to 5 sentence or 4 to 5 word summary, and then and it will reliably reproduce an email that you can totally send cold. And because it's so cheap, you can actually run it back through the model and say, is this crazy? What about this email sucks? And then like, is it in this format? And so you can have it check itself, right? Like do your homework and then check your homework, grade your own homework. And it's cheap enough that you can do that, and it works. I'm happy to chat offline about the model and stuff and how we're doing.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think obviously what we've been talking about there is the actual content, the words and what we're saying, but I think also the delivery mechanism for that as well. You know, we're talking about emails right now, and of course to deliver that, but rather than it being just a purely textual email, you know, kind of totally creating a total avatar of yourself. There are obviously videos and AI that are doing that already, the deep fakes or whatever, but they're still in that uncanny valley. I think they're still not quite there. I think obviously within 5 years from now, they're going to have moved on leaps and bounds, right? And you can create like a live recorded Loom quality video with all this content we're talking about, but delivered in a more humanized way. And I think that's kind of where you're going to see a big shift within, you know, obviously it's nowhere near there yet, but I think within 5 years, which obviously was the question there, I think that's where we're going to see a big shift as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too, but I think it's not going to be net valuable, because all these people that are creating these like AI, like this is the problem that people think it's like humanization. If I can just humanize it more, it's like that has nothing to do with your market insight or the company's problem. And so you'll see these companies that are creating these deep fakes, et cetera, for Loom. Like the problem is not, if only I had a Loom to watch, I would buy your product, right? Like no one wants to watch a 1
Yeah,
or
I
2
mean,
minute.
it's still obviously targeting everything else is important, but it's the delivery of that message. And I think humans do respond better to another human than just words on it in an email.
I don't know. Like I look at an email for like half a second, and I'm like, if this is relevant to me, I delete it. Like it doesn't actually matter if. So I don't wake up in the morning and I'm like, I'm running through my life, and so that meant the quality of that message has to be excellent. And I think that the single problem is people aren't anchoring on buyer behaviors. They're trying to get attention from their buyers and buying tools about attention. Personalize. If I can only personalize a little bit more. Attention isn't our big problem in B2B. It's actually taking the insight that the founder has about the problem or your best AE and figuring out how to take that insight to market. And that there's a huge disconnect between what teams are doing today, and super junior people and automation are speaking to super senior buyers. And it's that delta that we need to close.
And I'm just wondering, can you train an AI to do webinars like this? Because I think he would probably do a better job than me. So
me too. Yeah, I know exactly. That's the day here when they can just like take your online content and then you can show up to webinar. That's a different level. Yeah.
I could jump in here because guys, it's like AI avatars. Have you seen what magic they can do?
Yes,
well, you
scary.
can check actually, I mean, like you can check TikTok account of Reply Your Founder, Oleg Bilazor, and you can see that some of his videos, like actually made, he's using AI avatar of himself. These videos go viral. I mean, and if you consider, just let's recollect March, I would think it was February 2023, when ChatGPT was released. Just compare that release with the current state of AI technology and all those models, and actually what technology can do and how it is implemented, like this native technology in the second wave products. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, like, I don't even agree that it will take us 5 years. I mean, this year we'll see another leap forward in AI technology.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that they go viral because because it's sugar. People are really interested in this. They're like, they get high off it. They're like, this is the bleeding edge, but that is not sustainable. So of course you can capture attention anytime you're at the bleeding edge. But the question is, what happens after the bleeding edge and people start to realize they are avatars? You're left in the same situation you are today, which is like, who are you targeting? Why are you targeting them? And what unique insight do you have about their market? Independent of how that message is delivered, the quality of that message matters. And that's the biggest opportunity, I think, today, or even when generative AI can do a much better job.
Yeah. After the sugar high wears off, you have to go back to your desk and you've got a bunch of tasks and, you know, all those pain in the ass things that you have to do. And that's the same with your clients, right? They're still trying to grapple with the business issues. And
there'll be an AI for that too.
Well, wish our AI avatars could do some work for us, right?
Right.
Let's get to another question. What old school sales techniques would you bring back if personalization, well, or targeting were suddenly banned, and why?
Cold calling all day long. Just like parallel dialer
with AI, right? AI avatar doing cold calling.
No. Hello, thank you for you called movie phone. You know, it's like no, press 1. You know, no, forget it.
Press 1 to buy my product.
Yeah. Just tell me the movie that you want to watch. Yeah.
Click here.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's your promo code, right?
Yeah. Cold calling. I mean, it's the fastest way to get feedback on your market, and especially if you're going to parallel dialer, right? Like you're that's something or also in person. I mean, we're seeing great results with in-person events. So just
I was gonna say networking events is kind of it's immediate feedback. I think sometimes with cold calling it can be a little bit intrusive. You know, no one's given permission for that call. You might not catch them at the right time. In-person events, you know, obviously people are there. And again, you might get a confirmation bias because they're there to be sold to, or at least there to information gather. But I like the kind of it's kind of less intrusive, and you can hit a lot of people, get a good success rate of hits. Whereas cold calling, you could maybe do 10, 20 calls before you get a good one. But yeah, I think they're both like Jordan said, great ways of getting immediate feedback. And in any sort of startup or any kind of sales cycle, that feedback's kind of key to kind of being as effective as possible.
And we're sending awards too. We're sending like literally crystal awards.
Oh wow, that's cool.
That have like the best customer support, and so this is like I don't know $300 to $500 a piece, but these deal sizes are $70,000, $80,000, $100,000, and so like, am I going to spend a 3D heart in here is printed in the center, right? Like, of course I'm going to spend that amount of money because it will break through the noise, right? Like it's a different thing that people don't really get. Something on their desk that they can play with that's like impressive. So direct mail too.
That's really taking the sending out the logoed pen out to another level.
Yeah. No one needs a new pen, but I mean, no, I don't know. No one needs a crystal award, but it's still like, hey, yeah, I gotta spin it.
Exactly. It could be the envy of the office.
The world's most expensive fidget spinner. Yeah, exactly.
But I think that if you cannot target though, you would be either like sending mails to people you don't know, or like you would be like calling people and you don't know who would be at the end of the call. So I would say what I would do is I would just get some business cards, and then if I'm trying to sell something, I would just go and put them on expensive cards, just because this is how I would know that people have money. It's like this, because otherwise it's like just calling some random people or like knocking at random door. I mean, like, you can look at the side of the house.
Oh, so that was your business card, huh, in my car? Yeah. That's why I have a loan on the car and you own.
It's all about how it started, right?
Yeah.
Actually, few dozens years ago.
Well, people they're still people. I mean, the fundamentals, right? It's like people still want to buy from other people, and that's not going to change. AI is not going to change that, right? It's like I'm going to look across the other edge of the table, and it's like, do I trust you to solve my problem? And that will always be the case. I mean, that's not going to change, and I don't think people will one day wake up and trust an AI to make $100,000 purchase. It's like I want to see someone on the other end and be like, like, is David going to do me dirty, or is he going to really help me out here? And if I believe, of course, which is the truth, is he going to help me out?
Use me as an example.
You just happen to be there. Yeah.
No, I agree. And we've been stuck inside, during COVID for so long. It is so exhilarating to get out of your house and go and meet people first face to face, and AI can't yet replicate that. And I'm like, wait a minute, I live in San Francisco, there's got to be a lot of people that I can meet with. So I made a goal to go out at least once a week and have coffee and meet and, you know, go to events. There's always something going on. And, you know, the AI cannot replicate that. It's if, you know, if you can get out of your house and go meet people.
I'm here in San Francisco, so let's get coffee after I insulted you, David.
Yes, everybody, you know, give me a call if you're going to be here. I will buy you coffee. I love coffee. I'm drinking it right now.
See, no
By the way-
personalization needed, and I just closed a free coffee. So
Yes.
yeah.
You got your first meeting today.
Oh, actually, I did use your name, so fuck
Yeah.
me. Personalization works.
Personalization works.
There-
Simple
there-
words.
David, do me dirty, Delaney. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Get out the
nagging is
business
the
card.
future. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, topping up windshields.
Yeah. It's like not complimenting. That's the way to go.
It's the neg sales technique. Great.
He's the pickup artist.
You can't buy from me. Yeah. Buy. Yeah. Oh, maybe I can.
Oh, please.
I mean, like, this is the most heated panel I've ever been holding. Thank you so much. I mean, we have 1 minute left. I'm not sure I have one question left. Let's just try to do this. If AI could perfectly predict every customer's preferences, what would be the role of human salespeople?
I think we've been talking about this the whole way through, because all we're talking about there is Uber targeting, you know, and it still takes the human kind of empathy, human connection to deliver those data points that AI has delivered for you, right? Or so I think it's everything we've already said and kind of almost agreed on.
Agreed on.
Trust.
Meeting,
I mean, Jordan said it best. Yeah. You have to trust the person that they're not going to do you dirty. So my answer for this question is golf. Playing golf. We're just going to play golf all day, and the AIs do it, and we build trust with the clients.
That's the perfect future, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the third question that AI will never ask, right? A customer will say one thing, and they'll say, you know, I like coffee. And it's like, okay, well, what kind of coffee? Like Starbucks? Like, no, not Starbucks. Okay. Well, why am I selling you coffee then? Like, okay, well, what do you like? Well, I like third wave coffee. Okay. Are you into what kind of milk? Well, I like actually soy milk. Soy, who drinks that anymore? And it's that level of type of questioning here to understand really what the buyer wants. And the AI is not going to know those questions to ask because the market's changing. And so the seller is really trying to not only qualify, but disqualify a prospect to make sure that they can be happy. And that's going to be really hard, I think, for AI to do, you know, unless it's training all your gong calls, in which case, fuck it, go play golf.
Pickleball.
Yeah, pickleball. Yeah. I can't play golf. I got no shot. Pickleball, you know, there's like 80-year-olds playing. I got some shot there.
Guys, thank you so much. It was so insightful and funny at the same time. It was heated, but I believe that all of you here were able to prove your point. And I mean, like, I believe that the world is so different that and a lot of approaches can live simultaneously, right? Thank you for this. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Hi.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Max. Hey, Olivia.
Hey.
Hey, Bilal. So, without further delay, let's welcome our next expert, Bilal Badrawi, founder of LearnToSell.io, who will share expertise.
Thank you for having me. Well, that last little sounded exciting. There's some juiciness there at the end. I feel like I missed out.
It was really juicy dialogue panel. It was nice. The topic is how to embed the outbound culture into your team's DNA. Is it right?
Yes, that's right. I hope so. I mean, that's what I plan. So
we too. So let's start.
Yeah, for sure.
Good luck.
So I'll give everybody a really quick background to me, just so you're aware. So I've been an early sales hire at 7 startups. 5 of the 7 were 100% outbound. So we're talking about 0 brand, 0 inbound leads, no marketing going on, just starting from scratch. So I've had to build outbound from ground zero multiple times and grow sales teams that needed to be reliant on outbound. And I'm going to tell you right now, what I see a lot of companies do as a mistake is they believe that somehow if they slap on metrics, requirements, that somehow the outbound will just happen, right? If I just tell my team, hey, we got outbound now, let's get on the phone, let's send some emails, and then outbound is going to magically occur. Does not. It really does not. It's a recipe for disaster. And I'm going to tell you right now something as an outbound expert that most probably wouldn't tell you, which is the fact that most outbound is a huge waste of time. The significant majority of outbound that most sellers do and the significant majority of most companies doing outbound are just wasting times of their rep, wasting time in their sales process, wasting time for the revenue org in general. Because a lot of it is just fluff. A lot of it is just, again, meeting minimums or requirements and not actually creating yield, creating results. So we got to get away from that. So how do we instill quality outbound and a culture that is built around it? Because here's what happened, and we all experienced this during COVID. A lot of sales teams don't realize that they have a cultural identity. How you act as a group and how the individual acts when others aren't around is the cultural identity of the sales org. And for most sales teams, the culture is built around winning. Winning, that's the idea. We win. Try to win. We celebrate wins. That's why we got all these dashboards. We celebrate all these customers joining. It's all about winning. And guess what happens when things like COVID occurs or the economy tanks? All of a sudden, winning becomes a lot harder or it disappears entirely. Does your culture go out the window? It shouldn't, right? Because your culture should be based on more than just winning. Winning is an outcome, not a cultural identity. So how do you build an outbound culture? That's what I want to cover today. And I'm going to be, let me know if I could share my screen here. I'm going to present it. Let's see if we can bring this up right here. I'm going to share my tab. Looks like we're good to go. Okay, great. Perfect. So really fast, let's just talk about the basics. This is the easiest way I can describe it after 15 years of doing outbound. This is the easiest way I can describe it. All right, go-to-market basics. You're either going to be an inbound base or outbound base or a mix of both. The great thing about inbound is you're getting the right time. Somebody's raising their hand. Ideally, they have already vetted themselves as somebody that's keen to learn more. That's how we call them hand raisers. Are they the right company or the right person? God knows, right? You sometimes you get crappy inbound, sometimes you get good inbound. It's a whole mix of things, but it's almost always the right time. When it comes to outbound, you get to choose who you outbound to. You're setting the table. The first move is yours. So it better be the right company and it better be the right person. And the way to make sure it is by doing research, buying tools that allow you to enrich, etc. But you have no clue if it's the right time. Timing is not an objection. It's just a reality. So you want to build your company, your mindset, your sales org around the idea that we are going to do outbound. We are going after right fit companies and hopefully the right person in those companies, but our timing is probably off. Just because we decided to pick up the phone or send an email doesn't mean that person is actually interested in buying from us, but we can start the process. We're not going to let timing be something that distracts us. So the first piece of advice that I have for you is to understand the basic of go-to-markets and just put that into your head's team. Set the expectations to be fair. Because the worst thing you can do, whatever it is, whether it's outbound, inbound, anything in life, having unfair expectations makes the entire process painful. It makes it hard. Okay, so the fair expectations going in, that's what matters. We're going to try to get the right company and the right person every time. And we're going to accept the fact that our timing is probably off and the fortune is going to be in the follow-up. And that's going to be our outbound motion as a sales org, as a company, as a team, as individuals. Now, the second piece I throw out there is everybody needs to do it. Everybody needs to do outbound, okay? The way you make it a cultural thing, something that is in the DNA of your team, of your company, is not make it somebody else's job. That's the complete opposite, okay? Now, I'm not saying that the CEO and founder needs to outbound as, as high volume or as regularly as an SDR, but at least once a month, at least, if not at least once a quarter. But I would recommend once a month. There should be a day for everybody in the company to participate in doing some basic prospecting. Even the people that aren't on the sales team can join in, whether they're from product or engineering or marketing, even if they just look into their network and try to find referrals. Just the act of trying to do it collectively is a huge thing. That is part of, again, building a culture, a DNA of outbound. So whether things are going well or times are getting tough, it is just part of the culture to do this. So one of the reasons why this doesn't happen is because typically sales leaders and managers and VPs and things like this are nervous to do outbound because obviously there's a lot of rejection and they have a higher status. So they're worried if they do outbound, they'll get rejected. The team will laugh at them, make fun of them. They don't want to put themselves in a compromised situation. Complete opposite. Complete opposite. When a leader does outbound, it's not about the outcome, it's about the effort. When the sales team, especially the junior reps and the AEs, see that somebody in a leadership position is once a month, once a quarter, stepping down from that perch and kind of getting in the trenches and getting messy and doing a little bit of that prospecting, it is so uplifting. It's a huge morale boost. It says, okay, this is what we do. Even our leaders do it. So I'm going to say it again. Everybody needs to do it. Now, the second piece that I'd recommend is that take the sting out of that, rejection, out of that failure. I see so many times sales orgs where, reps will do things kind of in the shadows. I'll take my calls from the phone booth if they're in an office, or when they're at home, everybody's kind of doing their thing and there's no exposure. Nobody's jumping on like a Zoom room together or any of these millions of platforms that are out there where you can collaborate together live. Nobody's doing that. Everybody's doing it individually. And that hurts because then when you get rejected, you're getting rejected alone. Okay. So you want to take the sting out of rejection. You want to do things more openly. One of the first sales orgs I joined was a company called Trinet. It was an HR company. And I remember my first day walking in, there were 5 other SDRs. I was the 6th SDR hire. We were a very small team at that time, but we all cold called together. It was just an open pit. You could literally hear everybody else cold calling right over the wall. And there was something to that of, listening to somebody way more experienced on the team, just getting flamed out. And it's like, okay, but that's real. Now it doesn't feel as bad. It doesn't feel like a stigma if I mess up. So that's really important because if you don't, pressure and anxiety start to build in reps when they feel like that rejection isn't being is on them only and isn't a collective issue. Okay, so take the sting out of the rejection, take the sting out of doing prospecting, and that leads to the next point, which is prospect together. So the way you take the sting out is you make it a habit to do it together. It's really easy just to say, okay, team, we're not doing outbound. So everybody has to make at least 50 cold calls a day and send at least 100 emails. Good luck to you. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. Instead, it's like, if you have to make 50 calls a day, why don't we all do it together for an hour and a half between the time of 10 to 11:30? Now, all of a sudden, it's like, great. As much as I don't want to cold call perhaps, or as much as I find outbound difficult to do, the fact that we're doing it together, again, makes it feel so much easy. It's not just my burden now, it's a collective burden. And I can see everybody else is participating. That's huge. That's how you build momentum. That's how you build excitement. That it's like, okay, we're all going to do it together. It's going to feel like a party now. It kind of feels like we're all in it together. And I'd rather be doing that than, feeling like I'm out on my own trying to make this work in the wilderness. So what I recommend is you have everybody prospect together. Again, pick times on a daily basis where you have the team come together and do some prospecting. And this doesn't necessarily have to be something that you can only do in an office. Again, virtually this can be done. You might all join into a virtual meeting together, put each other on mute, but just do it. Say for the next hour, each of us will be, maybe cold calling or sending emails. And the fact that you can see everybody on the screen working together, that's huge. So prospect together. Don't make it a lone wolf activity. And another piece that I see as a major issue is that companies focus on quantity versus quality. It's like it's a debate, this or that. Which should we be doing more of? If we try to personalize our emails, that's high quality, but that's going to affect the number of emails we send. Oh, but you know what? If we just load up the spam cannon and shoot out a lot of emails, we're going to get high quality, but now all of a sudden the quantity is not there. It's not this or that, it's both. You want both. The goal should never be one or the other, and they don't have to be competing. There is benefit to doing quantity and outbound because it's a numbers game. I mean, if we go back to the beginning here, we said we can guarantee that we're talking to the right companies and right people beforehand by doing some research, by filtering out wrong fit accounts, and so on and so forth. But the timing can never be guaranteed in outbound. So you have to do quantity to overcome the timing issue. Because just because somebody answered or somebody replied to an email doesn't mean they're ready to buy. So the only way to overcome the timing issue of outbound is to do quantity. At the same time, if you do a bunch of quantity to wrong fit accounts, it doesn't matter how good your outbound is. If you have your rep cold calling a list where half the list is either bad phone numbers or accounts that are not a fit, either because of disqualification criteria or bad information or what have you, then what was the point of all that quantity? So you need both. You need to be able to filter and have high quality lists. You need to be able to have reps that are good at tying what I call the thread. So this is a very common thing. I'm going to stop sharing for a second so you guys can see my face as I describe this. This is really common where you have a rep trying to tie the loose ends on an account. So for example, the account comes in from a webinar. They notice that somebody that is a new executive at that company comes from a prior customer of yours. And then they look in the CRM and realize there's an old opportunity from 2 years ago from this company as well. So now there's all these loose threads. It's like, okay, I've got a webinar lead. It doesn't mean that that person on the webinar wants to buy our product, but clearly there's some interest in the topic. I found out that they have a new executive at the company that might be familiar with our company because that company used us before. And lo and behold, a few years ago, somebody at this company, and I don't know who, had some sort of opportunity with us. They've got to tie all that thread together. Okay? That's what great outbound reps do. So now they craft an email that kind of mentions all these things and ties that thread together. That's quality. That's quality work being done. And now you want to do that across a bunch of different webinar leads or a bunch of different accounts that you might pull from some information source like LinkedIn or what have you. That's what you want to be able to do. So you want to be able to balance the quality and the quantity. Because if you just blasted off some generic thank you email to that account, you missed the chance to tie all that thread. And that leads to a very particular point that I want to stress right now, which is how you reward. The way you reward outbound dictates a lot of what you're going to see in terms of the effort that's put in. Too many companies simply reward quantity. How many calls did you make? How many emails did you send? And then there's some sort of reward just for that. And what you're doing is you're telling people, well, that's the minimum amount of work that I need to do. So I'll just do that just to make sure my hand doesn't get slapped and nobody bothers me. And then you'll have some rep that's doing double and triple that everybody else does in quantity, but it's not showing up in revenue. Yeah, they might get a few more meetings, but the conversion is so bad from all the quantity they're producing. We don't want that. On the flip side, you have situations where a rep is producing meetings, but not in the way that the company expected. They're really good on LinkedIn, or man, they're just really good at cold calling. They don't do emails, or vice versa. They're really good at writing emails and they suck at cold calling, but they're getting the meetings. And now all of a sudden we want to force that person to behave properly. So we say, okay, well, yeah, I know you're getting the meetings, but you're not making enough calls. I need you to make more calls. And we start putting pressure on them to change how they're producing. We don't want either of those, okay? There's a very simple way to do this. The way you want to reward so that you create a culture of outbound on a regular basis is you want multiple ways to win. So you say, first and foremost, how many meetings can you generate and how many of those meetings convert into pipeline? That's the core. And then secondarily, how much activity can you produce? Because we know that higher volumes of activity overcome that issue of wrong timing or bad timing or not knowing if the timing is right. So now we get that piece too. And then as well, if you have a channel where you seem to be producing better than other channels, how can you be the top rep for that channel? How can you be the number one rep at getting meetings through LinkedIn, or the number one rep at getting meetings through cold call? And there's some sort of bonus tied to that. So now we're creating multiple ways to win. So there's some excitement around it. It's like, cool, I might not be the best cold caller, but I can still make healthy money because my meetings convert to pipeline. And I'm the best one on my team at setting up appointments through email, and I'm getting a bonus for that. Or it's like, you know what? I'm not the best at any of those things, but I put in the effort every day, and I'm getting rewarded for trying as best as I can. And that additional effort gets me enough meetings that are converting into actual pipeline. So there's ways to win for everybody on the team, instead of it simply being either just a numbers game or simply about revenue. It's a bit of both. And that's how you do that balancing act between quality and quantity. Now, the other thing I'll say is, I'll give you an interesting idea. At every single company I've been at that does outbound, again, typically the mindset is, here's the minimum we expect you to do. What it ends up leading to is, like I said from the start, a lot of spam, a lot of outbound activity that's being done. There's tens of thousands of sellers today that are sending emails and making dials, and it will lead to nothing. Those calls will go unanswered. Those voicemails will not be checked. Those emails will end in spam, or they might make it to an inbox but never be read. So what was the point? What was the point of all that effort? It was never even seen. Okay. So on some level, you have to ask yourself, why are we expecting reps to do all this effort when most of it is in vain, when most of it leads to nothing? So I'll give you a thought, something to think about. What if every once in a while, maybe not on a regular basis, but every once in a while, a sales leader told their sales team, you know what, for the next 2 days, instead of having to send 100 emails a day, you only get to send 100 emails total. So we flip it. We make it a constraint. We say you are limited. And what happens is, when you limit people's ability to do activity, you force creativity. You know, the birthplace of creativity, the reason why startups win against big companies and why the world is filled with startups, is innovation is bred from constraint. When I have too few resources, too little time, too little money, that makes me have to get creative. That makes me have to get innovative. So if you want innovation from your sales team, you want that culture of outbound, every once in a while, instead of saying, this is the minimum you have to do, tell them, no, that's the maximum you get. You only get to make 50 dials for the next 2 days, but you're still expected to get 2 outbound meetings. Let's see if you can do it. Now all of a sudden your rep goes, wait a second, I can't just call everybody. Now I have to be really selective who I call in the next day or two. I'm going to make the best possible calls I can in the next day or two, because I only get 50. I have to be really careful with my dials now. Now, I'm not saying do that on a regular basis, but that's a way to flip it every once in a while. Now put this all together. So we said, we're going to set expectations fairly, right? That was the first piece. We're going to go after the right company and the right person and recognize timing is a magic. Then on top of that, we're going to take the sting out by having everybody do it. And we're all going to do it together. So now all of a sudden it feels like it's a team building thing, even though sales isn't really a team sport. Prospecting can be, because prospecting is in sales. So now we've got prospecting being a team sport. And then on top of that, we're not going to push about quality or quantity. We're going to say we need both. It's not about one or the other. It's not a versus mentality. It's a mindset of abundance. And then the final piece, every once in a while, instead of being like, you have to do a lot, we're going to switch it. We're going to say, actually, you're capped. You have to get real creative. I'm going to limit the amount of activity you can do, but not change my expectations of the results. Let's see how creative you can be. Do that on a monthly, quarterly basis, and watch how you build a culture of outbound that is not based on winning. It's based on effort. People are going to fall in love with the process instead of getting fixated on the results.
Thank you, Bilal. It was comprehensive. It was solid. And what I really love, that's even tomorrow, it's possible to implement the first step. So thank you for this straightforward advice.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, and hope to see you in the next on our next event.
Yep. Thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're ready to go further, and let's continue our journey. Up next, Luke. Hi. Luke, account executive at Reveal and co-founder at Salescast, and will lead us through Mastering Outbound Tactics, a guide for A's to outbound. Outbook your SDRs. We are all ears, Luke.
Fantastic. Appreciate the intro, Max. It's always tough to follow B-Lol whenever you have one of these types of presentations, but we chatted a couple of years ago about maximum activities, and that really changed my perspective on how I do outbound, and hopefully we can tailor this into the presentation we're going to cover today. So let me see if I can share out my screen here, the most dangerous worlds in tech. Let's pull this up real quick. And hopefully y'all can see my screen here. Give me 1 second, actually, drop this down. All right. So Bilal was talking about falling in love with the process, and that's absolutely true. That is something you need to do. But what's the point of the process? It's to get you to those results. We're in sales for a variety of reasons, but the most common one I found is helping customers and making money. So where do we find those? It's by finding customers to talk to. When I talk to most people, they try to make it super complicated. What is outbound? Well, I got to look at my TAM. I got to look at my ICP. Are we going to put them into an ABM motion? Are we going to do paid ads? Are we going to do call blocks? It really shouldn't be that hard. If you know who your customers are, we need to basically build a list. We know who we can help. We know what the benefits are. Let's build that list. Let's call the list. And let's email the list to set up meetings. And this is particularly pertinent when you are an account executive doing full cycle work. Because I've been in both roles doing outbound SDR work where you're comped on the meetings. Can you set a quality meeting? You're not comped on close one, but can you book a meeting and have it be qualified? But when you're in charge of closing revenue, you can't just book anyone and everyone. You got to book the deals that can close. So let's dig in a little bit deeper here. And for a quick background, why bother listening to me? Well, I've done it before. I like to ask advice from people who've been there, done that, like Bilal. And he was one of my mentors growing up here, but he really helped me back in 2020 and 2021 when I moved into outbound sales. So I've created many, many opportunities and closed a good percentage of them. So how do we find these opportunities? How do we find these people to talk to? That's what we're going to cover here in just a second. So I really see it as 3 different buckets when it comes to self-sourcing revenue. I know we're talking a lot about cold outbound, and that's what I want to end with. But as a full cycle account executive where you have to book your own meetings, what's the lowest hanging fruit? Where can we find easier revenue? And where can we generate outside the box ideas to get some more revenue? So let's start with the inbound database. And can we start there with some people you've already talked to? So when it comes to inbound calling, because it is different than outbound calling from what I've seen, and feel free to steal these scripts. I'll share them after the meeting and the presentation. But it's not as complicated as you think. For a quick background, I used to think that cold calling, you had to do deep discovery, build pain, find a reason for somebody to take a meeting with you on the call. It can be tricky to do that when you catch somebody when they weren't expecting you. So I flipped my script around and made it a lot easier. And it's as simple as, hey, it's Luke calling from Reveal. Does that name ring a bell? Or a company? Insert your company there. And you're going to get a yes or a no. And all we're doing here, to keep it simple as just building decision trees. Did we get a yes? What are the set of questions we can ask after that? Or did we get a no? And how can we take that back to the yes? So in the simplest terms, if they know who we are, great. I was hoping to book a quick call to maximize value in your account. That's vague enough that they'll be curious, but you're at least offering something. And the beauty of this is, can we option close at the end here? So how's tomorrow at 2 or 3 o'clock? They're going to 90% of the time pull up their calendar and say, yeah, I'm available at 3. And you can lock down that invitation. And that gets into the second part of this, which is, what do you do after you have that meeting booked? And this is where I see so many things go wrong, because you've done the work, you've called, and now you've gotten them to agree to a meeting, but can we confirm that they're going to show up? And that's where we start getting into these later options. So let's confirm that their email address is correct. Yes, it is lruffing@reveal.co. Yep, I did get your invite. And so would you mind accepting that for me? And then we'll have a chat later on. And if they have time, if it doesn't feel like they're rushed, you do have their attention. There is the potential for you guys to qualify further. So I saw these things that were going on in your account. How are you solving for that today? What's your plan to do XYZ? You can ask these types of questions to qualify further after you have the meeting booked. You don't necessarily have to keep building value to get to the meeting. Get the meeting first. And then once you're done with that, the best time to book a meeting is right after you booked a meeting. You want to keep the momentum going and keep stringing multiple connects, multiple meetings in a row. I think that even goes back to what Bilal was talking about, doing these team prospecting sessions. If you can start to feel the momentum, you can start to build this moving forward. You have a much better chance of booking more meetings and creating more pipeline. But circling back, prioritization. Who do we call? Because we were talking about building the list, calling the list. Well, who are we going to call? With the simplest terms, if you're a full cycle account executive, you're trying to close deals so you can make money. Who was the closest to buying without actually purchasing? It's probably your list of close lost deals. So when you're in cycle, take notes on why you lost a deal. Was it because a feature was missing that you guys had on the roadmap? Did a round of funding come up? Was there a new hire starting? Figure out what these signals are and keep that list of accounts handy for you to call back later on. And then you can prioritize the rest of your leads after that. New inbound signups, longtime product users, referrals, and then cold accounts, which we'll get into in just a bit here. But that's how I prioritize my day, is who's the closest to closing, what was their blocker, and do we have a solution for it now? Using that same call script 2 slides ago. So we're talking a lot about outbound cold calling, but not everybody picks up the phone. So are there ways to get people's attention outside of the phone? And we talk a lot about LinkedIn, but email still works if you nail relevance. And so there is a difference between relevance and personalization. It drives me nuts because most people think personalization is talking about something you have in common. You went to the same college. You worked at the same job. Your buddy knows somebody. It's not what relevance is. That's just personalized. What is relevance is getting oriented. Who's in charge of the project or pain point that we can help solve for? Add a little bit of context. And this is real world examples of what I use day in and day out. Working with a couple partners who want to do lead sharing. And then one thing, just a little psychological play, but the flip from asking for a yes, do you have time for a meeting? Can we get something on the calendar? To the flip side, would it be a bad idea to discuss? Would you be opposed to jumping on a meeting? It plays a little bit of psychology and gives the prospect the feeling of power. They feel like they can say no. And that leads to a lot. And it leads to a lot of credibility. So when it comes to emails, write it like a text message. Make it easy to read. Break up the lines and make sure that it's relevant to the right person you guys know how to sell to. that's what I would talk about on inbound. The other thing I wanted to share as part of this is the copy that's been working the best and leading to the most close won deals for me is literally this email here. Who's in charge of XYZ for you? Saw a couple of areas where we might be able to add some value with your partners. And no lie, 9 out of 10 responses are, hey, please work with name who's CC'd. That's in charge of partnerships or that is in charge of sales. And they'll add a little bit more context. You're just trying to route to the right person who can solve or benefits from the solution you guys are offering. And you can book a meeting from there. So these are the sort of stuff that's working for me on the phone scripts, the email scripts on inbound. But we're still talking about revenue and doing prospecting. One key thing you might be able to take advantage of is referrals. This will be short, but it's simple, not easy. Anytime you have a conversation with someone, anytime you provide some value, what we really want to be looking at is who else could benefit from that same value. And these are the questions I like to ask on calls. And would you be open to CCing me on an email to them? Because that validates and uses the trust you built up and the trust they have with their partner or the other person they recommend your solution to get a foot in the door. We're trying to make this a warm introduction as possible. And that's the beauty of going through the referrals. The other side on referrals is after you close a customer is putting them on a cadence strip. Use reply to 1 month after they've signed. Just send an email out saying, how's the implementation been going? Is there anything I can help with? And who else do you know that could benefit from what you guys have seen as a part of this? You're building a referral network that keeps the leads coming in, and you're able to run your own full cycle role agency and keep the pipeline filled. You have more people to meet with than you have time to meet with them. Those are some of the benefits you can get from the referral network. So that's what it looks like to do inbound prioritization for me. Then referrals from current customers. The next thing I want to touch on is how do I do cold outbound? And a lot of it comes back to targeting. Remember that list at the beginning? Who are we going to be reaching out to? Obviously, you should know who your ideal buyer is, but can we get some deeper info on the 3% of buyers that are in market today? Can we talk to the right person with the right problem at the right time? Those are some of the things that we might be able to uncover here. And so one area that's a little bit different I've been experimenting with over the last year and a half is using some partner information on top of the other data you can get out there. We all know about the intents and job changes, funding rounds, and other signals, but are there partner signals as well? And so that's where we might be able to build a list of target accounts. We know who we can sell to, but we want to see which partners they're attached to. So figure out which partners or contacts you guys want to reach out to. Figure out who is involved in the initiatives with your partner. So who are the deal influencers? And then we can ask the partner for some help. And we're trying to make this easier. If this is a strategic account, we need to land this. Let's get all the answers to the test that we can. And it can be as simple as asking your partner, Luke, I saw you close reply last year. I'm looking to talk to their CEO about the priority on the marketing side. We have a joint value prop. It's going to resonate. Is there anything you can share about your experience working with them? Was procurement a blocker? What's the initiative they have going on? Is this something that we actually have a chance of finding an initiative on? And then add a little bit of value at the bottom. So that's how I prioritize lists and targets. It's not just the intent data and ICP, but can partners help me out a little bit and make my life easier? When it comes to true cold calling, though, once I have this data and we know who to talk to, a shout out to Justin Michael, but this is the script I use on cold calls. It's not, hey, can I get 30 seconds of your time? I know this is a cold call. Let's get right to relevance. This is how I run things. Is who's in charge of your X strategy, partnership, sales, marketing. Insert what you guys solve for at the beginning here. And the prospect will say real quick, either I'm in charge or Justin's in charge or Max is in charge. You're going to be able to get to the right person with this routing strategy. If you find the right person, you got to build a little bit of pain. How's that solution working out for you? Do you guys have somebody in place? And keep following them down the rabbit hole for 2 or 3 questions to see if there is a problem. And then this line has landed me so many meetings because it's low risk on their side. Why not plug us in alongside your current solution to multiply the effectiveness of what you guys are trying to get as a benefit? Get what you can, and then make it easy for them to say yes to a meeting. That's what cold outbound calling looks like to me. And it's repeatable, and I've used it to book tons of meetings. And then another quick example of an outbound spear, this short email, I've got 2 minutes left here before I get tapped out, is can we make it tight with the context we got from our partners? I used to work with Jan, who's a partner, and he works over there now. You're starting up the tech program. I got a couple of ideas on how we can help you achieve your goals in your role. And then that negative ask again, would it be a crazy idea to discuss? This got a response within 15 minutes of sending it, and I booked the meeting. Take these types of spears and relevance and implement them with your own verbiage and what you guys solve for. And that is what I have when it comes to mastering outbound tactics as an AE. Fill your pipeline with deals that can close. So happy to toss it back over here to Josh and Max and everybody else who's coming up after me. But that is how I run outbound and inbound and create pipeline for myself. Alrighty.
That was super exciting, Luke. Thank you so much. What is your favorite tactic?
Favorite tactic? Who's the right person in charge? We solve for it.
Sorry, say it again.
Oh, sorry, I cut out there. It's the route, ruin, multiply tactic. That cold calling script of who's in charge of XYZ. What's the problem you're facing today? How's it working for you?
Does it work the same for different audiences? Any insights here?
It does, actually. So I've sold to sales personas. It worked really well with them. I've sold to VCs. Worked well in Sequoia. I've sold to others, decision makers, marketing and partnerships, and they still pick up and say, yes, I am in charge of XYZ initiative. So give it a try. They might just say, yep, I'm the person to talk to.
That really good to know that there are still proven tactics that work despite of anything happening on the market. Thank you so much, Luke.
Thank you, Olivia. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you. And as we shift gears, I encourage everyone to stay engaged and keep the questions coming. Coming up, we have Josh Roth, VP of Revenue and Global Head of Pre-Sales at Pipify, who will present on using AI through the discovery call. Josh, please begin.
Thank you. Very much appreciated. So let me go ahead and share the screen here. If I can. Hang on one second. We are getting in here and we are in. All right. So when you're thinking about using AI in your discovery calls, really what you should be thinking about is agility and thinking critically. Struggling to handle this. So we've got about 18 minutes here. A few things to think about. What we're going to cover today: where can AI help? Where can AI impede? When to consider leveraging AI and AI's role within discovery. So when using AI, it's really helpful to inform you on a perspective. What perspective are you having or that you're trying to build with the account, with the prospect that you're speaking with in discovery. A few things to think about. Rain Group releases some data around why buyers buy. The number one reason why buyers buy is they trust you. The number two reason is they feel like you're an expert in their field. So having a really well-informed perspective on how and if you can help in a discovery is really important, and leveraging AI to help you come up with that perspective. What's important to them? What's important in their industry? What are some trends that they might be seeing? Those are all things that AI can be helpful with. It also can help you expedite your research, and it can take your due diligence process down by anywhere from about 60 to 80%, depending on what you're selling, depending on the industry and information available within your customer account. And can also be really helpful in validating and gut checking your assumptions. Really, when you're leveraging AI, you should already have a bit of a point of view. AI should be validating and gut checking what your point of view is. Where AI may not fit, you should not be leveraging AI to think for you. That's not what it's for. It also really shouldn't be telling you what to ask. It might give you ideas on some questions to ask, but remember, the most important thing you can do is ask good questions. Chris Orlob is one of the people that I think really highly of, that posted recently that the biggest differentiator between strong salespeople and weak salespeople is the questions they ask. If AI is telling you what to ask, it's unlikely that that call is going to go as well as it could if you're the person driving that conversation. And I've yet to see AI really be a strong prospector yet. Might change, haven't seen it yet. So one of the ways that I believe AI can be best suited is actually as a backdrop in your conversations. What I've noticed is a lot of people use acronyms, or they'll talk about whether it's other softwares that are in use, or whatever it might be. I actually really like to use AI as a way for me to just gut check and make sure that I have an understanding of what our prospect is actually talking about. So here's a screenshot of, if you were selling to Verizon's chief digital transformation officer, what might be interesting to them, what might be important to them. This helps me to going back to the previous slide, just gut check what and why it might be important to them, and helps me gut check my own understanding. And then the cadence that I like to use AI in discovery calls is I'll actually use ChatGPT in discovery calls. And here's an example of, if someone were to use an acronym FTE, full-time equivalent, full-time employee, how you can really quickly just type it in and get the answer and get the context you need while still listening to the customer and listening for understanding. That's really, really key. And it's something that when I'm in discovery calls, when I'm speaking with customers and prospects, I really like to use AI as a backdrop so that I don't necessarily always need to be pausing the conversation. I think sometimes it's good to just ask your customer, hey, you use this acronym, what does that mean? Sometimes it can kind of derail the conversation. So recognizing when to use that pause and when to use AI as a backdrop is really important, and something that I think AI within discovery calls is really helpful for. Finishing up, AI's current and future role in discovery. The way I see AI is kind of a passenger. You still need to be the one driving that car. You take your hands off the wheel. AI is not at the point yet where it can drive for you fully if you're not paying attention. AI is still going to be a passenger in the sales process. AI can maybe help you navigate, but you still have to know where you're going. You still got to know your destination. AI can be the one that can kind of help you, again, just navigate the routes. It can help you prepare. It can tell you what to put into the car before your trip. But again, you still got to be the person that's packing. You still got to know what you need for the trip and why. And then it helps you get more specific. I've found in selling that it is better to be specific and wrong than it is to be vague. And I found AI to be helpful in delivering that specificity that you need in your discovery calls, in terms of helping you narrow your focus, particularly in forming that perspective. In the future, where I see AI going is as a little bit more of an enabler. I see AI as a tool to really enable a deeper discussion. Right now, I find that if you really want to do deep discovery, you need more than just a 30-minute call. Sometimes you need, multiple meetings, depending on whether you're selling, within the enterprise or in SMB. And I see potentially in the future, AI will enable salespeople and customers to have deeper conversations right from the jump. Because there's a certain level of knowledge that you as a salesperson should be coming into the call with. And the best salespeople will come into that call with that knowledge, enabling deeper discussion. I think AI will help more salespeople come to calls with that predisposition knowledge. I also think AI will be really helpful in reading earnings reports, 10Ks and 10Qs. I find, and this is a little bit more targeted towards enterprise selling than it is mid-market or SMB. But earnings reports are long. You've got 4 different statements that you're reading through. You also may be reading some sort of like investor relations document. Those can be 30 to 60 pages. I think at some point AI might be helpful in understanding and pulling out specific areas of the investor relations documents that might be able to illuminate some aspects of the business that you might not be aware of. And similar on things like the cash flow statement or income statement. AI might, I think in the future, will be able to read those specific documents and be able to help you form a perspective on what might be going on within the company based upon those earnings reports. So I see AI as really kind of being a tool for you to be able to get deeper in the financials than sometimes salespeople are able to right now. And I also think AI is going to become a little bit of what I would consider to be a business fortune teller. Right now, you can actually use AI as an investment vehicle. There are tools that you can actually invest alongside, Congress people, and it will actually mirror their purchases. And so I think at a future state, AI might actually be able to be a bit of a business fortune teller and be able to read based upon a company's tech stack, based upon a company's growth stage, based upon a company's growth rate of how many people they are hiring. I think AI at that point will become a little bit of a business fortune teller to be able to share with salespeople and share with go-to-market teams what is the next purchase that this company may make. So for example, if a sales team typically purchases a sales engagement platform right before purchasing a sort of like a prospecting tool, I envision AI as that fortune teller to be able to say, hey, this company just purchased, I'm making this up, outreach. And typically user gems is purchased shortly after outreach. Therefore, if your user gems, we're going to give you a bit of an alert that, hey, this company just made that purchase that typically happens right before, now's a pretty good time to reach out. So I see AI as kind of being a co-pilot in that sort of a sense as well. And really, that's all that we have on how I think AI can be leveraged right now in discovery and where I think we're going on AI. I appreciate it.
I mean, Max, I think that we are totally on the same page, right?
Yeah.
Me and Max are AI preachers, I would say so, like the tech guys that actually try to implement AI in each and every sphere of marketing and sales. So yeah, I mean, like, just totally agree here.
Maybe we have some questions. Let's check. No, it was clear, but I definitely will share the link to LinkedIn with Josh to make sure that anyone who have any question, because we'll share the recorded version of this summit. So I hope, George, you'll be able to answer maybe for those who eager to know more.
Yeah, 100%. Happy to.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have a nice day.
So that's it. What a day. Thank you all for joining us and sticking with us to the end. We hope you've enjoyed the B2B Growth Summit and found valuable ideas and insights to take back to your teams.
Yeah, and we're grateful for all the questions and engagement today. A special shout out to all our speakers for sharing their expertise and making this event a success.
We will be sending out replay links for this session along with some additional resources soon. So keep an eye on your inbox for that email. Well, by the way, that's the reference to deliverability topic that we were covering during this conference.
And don't miss out our next exciting online events. We got a whole lineup ready for you, from webinars, live training session, virtual events, and masterclasses, all tailored to equip sales professionals with valuable skills and insights. Why not take a look at our full events calendar and join us to continue the conversation and enhance your learning? Let's make the most of these opportunities together.
See you soon.
Bye.